Welcome back to Between Pages and Friends, a book club podcast hosted by Con and Lauren, two bookish besties, and their hottie hubbies, John and Kyle, who've agreed to read with them. I'm Lysandra.
I'm Fenris.
I'm Kale Westfall.
And I'm Aylin. Welcome back to our Throne of Glass book club. Before we jump in today, we want to wish everyone a happy Halloween and take a moment to introduce ourselves. I am Aylin Ash River, Galathinius Whitethorn, sometimes known as Selena Lillian Diaz.
Alentia.
What was the other one? Alentia.
Bitch!
I'll take it. Here's my best friend.
I'm Lysandra, shapeshifter, ghost leopard,
Hottie with a body.
hottie with a body.
I'm Fenris Moonbeam, part of Maeve's cadre, wolf shifter.
Oh man, I'm Kale Westfall, previous captain of the guard in Rifthold, current hand to King Dorian Haviliard, and now I'm here.
We want to give a huge shout out to our Patreon members who helped us vote for our Halloween costumes this year. We have had a ton of fun coming up with these, getting dressed up tonight and everything. So we hope you enjoy our costumes as much as we do. In this episode, we are finishing the tandem read of Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. Since this is a book club style podcast, there won't be any spoilers for Kingdom of Ash. However, if you are reading Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn separately, we encourage you to wait until you've finished both of these books before tuning into this episode. We will be discussing both of those books today.
Additionally, this is your mild content warning. We'll be discussing themes from these books that include chains, whips, reopening wounds, forced servitude, child endangerment, kidnapping, claustrophobia. Look, there's a lot of messed up stuff in the end of these books, okay? I can't cover all the triggers. If you're not feeling it, take a breath and continue. If you're looking for a community of book lovers who have been there, read that, and can support you as we read through subjects as heavy as this and as light as Irene's healing powers, you can join our Discord community for $5 a month in the snack court tier. If you'd like early access to new episodes, merch discounts, monthly book club, and all sorts of tricks and treats, like voting on these snazzy fits we have for this episode, you can join the Petring Book Club tier for $10 a month. Our Patreon is linked in the show notes or description box below.
Lastly, please remember to leave a review, as this is how administration is taking attendance now, and I'd hate to mark you as absent if you were. In fact, here, we always love reading the reviews, and really it is the best way to help our community grow and make even more pages of friends. Here's a recent review on Apple Podcasts from our new friend, Belle's Mom 621, titled, Curing My TOG Hangover Every Week. She says, this pod started when I was 2 books into the Throne of Glass series, and it has been so much fun getting to listen to this group talk about the books I've recently finished and gained some new perspective on them. I finished Kingdom of Ash recently and have been struggling. So this is the perfect way to stay in the Throne of Glass world for a little while longer. I feel like I'm listening to a hilarious conversation with friends, and Wednesday has become my new favorite day of the week. Thank you, Con, Lauren, John, and Kyle, and can't wait to see what you do next.
Aww.
Thank you so much, Belle's
Thanks,
mom.
Belle's
We
mom.
truly do
you.
appreciate the kind words. Tell Belle we said hi, and her mom is cool. Now, it's
Yeah.
time for our pronunciation guide. Over to you, Con.
Did you say pronunciation?
It's her pronunciation.
No.
Okay.
I may have slightly missed the R, but I thought I said pronunciation.
Well, thanks, Juan. We have a short pronunciation guide this week. First up is Varric and Huron, the 2 Fae males who held Aelin while Cairn whipped her. Making comebacks in this section, we have Galen Ashriver, Crown Prince of Wendlin, and Ilias, son of the Mute Master of the Silent Assassins, also known as the Sezi Sukast. And then we have Salki and Nesrin Zaruk. Onward to thy recap, Juanathan.
Thanks, Quanner. And we kick off this week's recap with Empire of Storms, or should I say Empire of Hope and Hell, because that's exactly what Aelin gives us and where she ends up by the end of it. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Unlike Elena and the Witch Mirror memories that Manon and Aelin are still deep into, after Elena's actions, we see her and Brannon arguing, Elena storming out, cut to Brannon over Elena's tomb. If you'll remember, she gave up her immortality to be with Gavin, so she died sooner than the other Fae. And then Brannon forging the Amulet of Orinth, hiding the last word key, and walking into a molten river, never to be seen again. And I thought I was dramatic. As the memories fade, Elena appears to speak to Aelin, and at Aelin's request shows her the memory of young Aelin falling into the icy river, Elena taking human form to save her and defying the other gods by keeping her alive, and also leading Erebin to the river's edge to find Aelin. Finally, Elena shows them what must be done. Aelin and Manon are sent back to the present and are plopped right next to Maeve with a dagger at Elid's throat. Jump to the Battle of the Bay. Everyone is still fighting. Powers are faltering when a roar sounds, and our very best big good boy Bractos comes into view with 12 others right behind.
Yay!
The 13 help clear the armada. As things calm down, Dorian senses flame, shadow, and death on the shore, but also something or someone ancient and female. And man, I wish I had a good joke here. But alas, we meet back up with Aelin and that ancient female, Maeve. They fight a little bit, but Aelin is just too gassed. Maeve's strategy now clear. Cairn is introduced, and Maeve gives Aelin a choice. Go with her willingly, or she takes her in the lead and lets Cairn get, quote-unquote, acquainted with Elide. Aelin accepts defeat and Maeve's deal, and just an awful to read moment. Knowing what we know, Cairn whips Aelin, and she's tossed into her custom-made iron box. Gavriel and Lorcan get dishonorably discharged. Maeve takes Aelin to the ship, and they disappear. Rowan is the first to arrive on the scene. Apparently, he and Aelin were married in secret. As they all reconvene, some of Aelin's plan comes to light. You know, if something like this were to happen, or if Aelin died with the whole Locke thing, Lysandra was to pose as Aelin. She and Adian siring heirs as Rowan acted as king, obviously, now that they're married. Everyone also learns what happened there with Maeve, and now Lorcan is pretty much on everybody's list at this point. Manon decides she's going to find the Krakens, and she gives the word keys to Dorian, which Aelin slipped to her during the altercation. They are all gathered on the beach and looking to Rowan when Gallon Ashriver comes rowing to shore with Wendland's massive armada appearing on the horizon. Then Ilias, son of the Mute Master of the Silent Assassins, comes over a dune behind them with hundreds in tow. Lysandra, as Aelin, greets them all. Rowan, Lorcan, Gavriel, and Elide make ready to go after and save Aelin. And Dorian, now with the keys, is their only hope for the lock, so he decides to go with Manon. Adian will stay with what the book is now referring to her as Lysandra Aelin. Really? All parties prepare to head their own way as Rowan takes to the skies and begins the search for his wife. And what an end to Empire of Storms. On to Tower of Todd, where Chaol and Irene figure out that it was Silba who made Athrel's ring of immunity. Hassar comes to them with news of the battle at the marshes, and she's got all the deets. Her info says Aelin is heading north along with all of her new friends. Aelin also sent Hassar a message for aid in a better world weeks ago. We'll get to that later. They go to the Torre and find Hafiza is missing. Their search takes them to the secret tunnel in the library. They make their way down Friday until they reach their destination. A giant room, Hafiza tied up on a throne atop the dais, and Duva next to her with a knife, grinning as only a Vogue could. Props to Kyle on that call. Literally so long ago. Oh my gosh.
So mad about that.
Yeah, so long ago. Me and Connor were both like, are you kidding me with him with the Duva prediction? They talk and then fight after a Hafiza surprise attack. Chaol squares up to give Irene time to get Hafiza to safety. Irene returns to the fight. Chaol steps in front to take a blow meant for Irene, and oh no, not again. Chaol gets a double dose right to the spine. Poor guy. Irene runs and Duva chases, eventually catching her. Irene uses what Aelin taught her to bust up Duva a little bit, almost kills her, but Hafiza stops her. Nezran and Sartak having arrived to help. She goes to Chaol, and he is in rough shape. He's dying, actually. A price must be paid to heal him, and Irene pays it. Chaol wakes up, and in the aftermath, Hafiza explains the price to be paid and the bond that Chaol and Irene now share. They take Duva to the Kagan. They tell everyone what happened and what they've learned. Irene heals Duva, the baby also saved. So glad Sarah made this work out, because this would have been one of the saddest things I had ever read if that went south. Chaolreen and Sartezran swap stories of their adventures apart. Hassar barges in and offers them their ships for the war. Yay! Nezran gets news that her family made it safe to Antica, so she goes to visit. Sartak shows up, and of course her family gawks because of the whole royalty thing. The kids love this moment. They are playing with the rooks, which is just hilarious. They're like little mother hens. I just see them burrowing into the street with all the kids playing around them. Anyway, Sartak tells her his father made him the heir, and then he practically proposes in no small words. Irene and Kao say farewell and start their journey north. Irene shows him the message that she keeps in her locket, and while he doesn't tell her, he instantly recognizes the writing as Aylin's. And in a brief ending excerpt, we get a heart-wrenching pre-torture scene as Maeve and Cairn start in on Aylin. Thanks, Sarah. And we're done.
That's the tandem read, everybody.
Wow.
That's the tandem read, everyone.
They did it.
I mean, we did, though. That's a lot of book. That's a lot.
A whole lot of book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of woman.
Chapter 68 of Empire Storms. I think I'm still in shock. Still. Read the book. Cool. Came here today to write my notes before tonight. And I still am just surprised that Elena and Nehemia planned literally basically everything that's happened, at least with Nehemia, since their very first meeting, because that's what we're seeing in the mirror conversation that they have.
Yeah.
And we knew that Nehemia and Elena had met other times in the basement of the glass castle and stuff, but I don't know, I guess I just okay, cool, they met in the marshes, and in my head for the last however many weeks since that moment, life happened. They continued to make this plan, and it led up to Nehemia dying, and she knew a vague you won't see Eelway again, but not very specifically this, X, Y, and Z, and you will also die. I'm just shocked and sad.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was kind of interesting when they recognized Rhiannon Crocken, and then it said the face. It was the same. Manon's face. The last Croken Queens from two separate eras. And I was thinking, I guess no one would really know at this point what Rhiannon looked like. So nobody would really make that connection other than maybe the older witches or her grandmother,
I guess
maybe.
That's true.
I guess the Crockens might be familiar with what she looks like. But it sounds like they all knew that Manon was who she was. Unless her half sister was one of the only ones that knew that. But I just thought that was interesting. And also I thought it was really interesting when it noted about Mort that the medal for making Mort was gifted by Rhiannon Crocken. And it made me wonder, I wish we knew what the medal was, if it had some kind of magical essence or something, or if it was just here's some bronze, and then they just imbued magic into it to make
you would think there'd be more stuff like that if witches could just make, because there's a ton of mirrors, I guess.
Right.
You'd think there'd be other random talking inanimate objects.
Also interesting that it was he went with door knocker out of all of the possible
Good
objects.
Point.
Of all the gifts.
Yeah.
Hot take. Could he have been a mirror? What are the different types of mirrors?
Ooh.
Travel, see to the past, present, and future.
Holds power.
Yeah.
I wonder if he was a mirror disguised as a door knocker.
Yeah. Does it? Because I don't remember if it describes what color he was.
Bronze,
back in the
I
day.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Anyway.
One of the things Kyle almost was for Halloween with this episode was Mort.
Yeah.
Just come as a wood plank.
I was going to get a
on
little
his
plank of wood and just color my face bronze.
Cut a hole in some plywood.
Stick your face in there. It looked like that moment in Jumanji where he kind of falls through the floor. Does anyone know what I'm talking
Oh,
about?
yeah.
And then he has to spin by putting the dice in his mouth.
Roll the dice.
Exactly.
That would be perfect.
I also highlighted this note about Mort, but my thing was, it's in this list of all the things Brandon did basically before he walked into the fire and killed himself. And it was super helpful and somewhat helpful, and hid this word key here and did this there and made an amulet of Orinth. And he also made Mort. And not that I don't love Mort. Great character. Love him from the beginning. But what was the point of Mort? In the grand scheme, Mort didn't really give us any information. He was a cute little side quirky character. Was he
That's interesting.
Was he supposed to keep the word key hidden down there? But then also when it got found, he didn't tell anyone. He doesn't tell Aylin anything.
Yeah.
He just says, ask the right questions.
This is sort of what I said in the last episode, I think, when we found out that guy was possibly Lysandra's uncle. And I was like, not everything needs to be tied together. I didn't need to know how Mort was made because of that. His character itself wasn't integral to the plot. So when it was oh, he made Mort too, I was like, all right, good for him, I guess. I don't
I mean, yeah, I don't mind knowing it only because I think I would have at some point been like, why was he there? Like, who made him? But at least here it's like, okay, well, I guess he was part of Brandon's plan.
I feel like it would have been more interesting if it was like Mort was the method that Aelin could get like through that door into the tomb. But then we find out that like the king was able to get down there. So it's like, okay, well, he obviously didn't have any control over being the door locked or not.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, what was he there for? Give Aelin a hard time
Helena Company.
and riddles and
Do you think it's like one of those things where Rhiannon was like, gave him the medal and he came back with Mort and she was like, oh, I thought you'd make like a sword or a shield or something. Why did you make a door knocker? And he's like, oh crap.
Shoot.
Well,
That
that's
would
what
have been
this is
smart.
for. Yeah.
Do you have any more? Or
That's really funny.
That's really
it's
funny.
like, I could have been a sword.
You could have carried me around with you this whole time.
Do we even know if
Mort.
Mort's okay? Do we just assume the castle broke and so he's broken? He was underneath it all.
Yeah, I don't think we know.
He's technically part of like the stone castle, so I don't think he's destroyed.
Just still under there. It's a living.
He's just down
It
there.
ain't much, but it's honest work.
At least it's a different view. I can see the ceiling now.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll come back. I'm putting that in my thoughts and theories. We'll see more again.
Maybe he'll show up
Yep.
More.
on the battlefield.
You know, it's like the other door knocker. There was two of them, and it'll be the other one that should have been next to Mort.
You see a door just like whipping through the battlefield. She's just like running.
It's all of a sudden more Beauty and the Beast and all the things come out.
I'm coming, guys.
Oh, it's funny. Well, along this like why Brandon, why moment, the quote says, the riddles and the clues, the best he could offer to explain the truth while keeping those keys hidden from the world, from powers who would use them to rule and to destroy. Cool. Sure. Riddles and clues. Could have been about where these keys are hidden and still told her the rest of the information. Like, I don't know why all the rest of the information needed to be part of these riddles and clues.
I mean, first of all, yes. But yeah, like keeping the truth from everyone so no one who's like, evil would take it or whatever. That's fine. If Mort knew, why would Mort be made to be so around the bush?
I don't
Like,
know.
Mort knew who she was and was like, oh yeah, you're this. He wasn't told like, if you see her, tell her the truth. Because like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Elena's just out here being the worst, trying to make everything more difficult for everybody.
I know. Well, and I think I even quoted it later with Kale when they're like talking to, is it Narusha? Is she the librarian?
Nusha.
And Nusha, thank you. Talking to Nusha, the librarian, and she like tells him something really cryptic or whatever. And he even says like, he almost said things that are cryptic aren't helpful right now, but instead decided to run away or something like that. And I was like, no, you should have said it. Somebody needs to finally say that.
To. Yes. Something that I did not remember, and my jaw was just like on the floor reading it, was I did not remember how Brandon died, and that he literally just he set the remaining key under a flagstone, and then he walked into that molten river into the burning heart of his beloved, and Brandon, King of Terrasen, Lord of Fire, did not emerge again.
Crazy.
That's really my whole note. I just like I did not remember that. I was like so shocked by that. I don't know why. I don't know, but he really committed to the bit.
Yeah,
he went for it. Yeah.
I mean, like his daughter died, so he hid all the things and he was just like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Peace. That's kind of sad.
I have a note here, like when it said Mala's temple, that like really threw me for a loop because I was like, are we supposed to know where that is? But like,
isn't that where she trained with Rowan? And all the like, the temple was broken and stuff, and she'd like touch the temple rock and it would be like extra warm or something like that.
Well, if Brandon was there, I would have assumed that it was in Orinth or at least in Terrasen.
Yeah, I don't think it was specifically hers, but I'm gonna look.
Like, I'm assuming, too, since we obviously know where Aelin got the other two keys, that's where Erewhon got the third key.
Yeah, because the first key is in the Crown of Midnight or whatever, Aelin's crown downstairs in the basement.
Yeah, Elena's crown and then the Amulet of Orinth.
And so that would be the third one.
And then whatever one was at Mala's temple. So that's the one that Erewhon has, and he had to have gotten it there because he didn't get it at the other two places.
Well, it said the only person who could get it would be someone with that gifts or someone with another word key. So it had to be
Yeah.
Erewhon because he had the first word key from Elena's crown or whatever.
That's true.
And then whichever one of those two is what Caltaine stole and they have now.
Right. That's right. Yep. That's right.
Okay, so yes, you are correct. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, nice.
Because
I remember things.
I typed temple into Air of Fire and it was just like ruins, temple ruins, ruins of an old temple. And then Aelin says, what was this place anyway? Only slabs of broken stone remained to show where the temple had stood. A few oblong stones, pillars, were tossed about as if a hand had scattered them, and several stones grouped together indicated what had once been a road. And then Rowan replies, the sun goddess's temple. And it says, Mala, Lady of Light, Learning, and Fire. And she said, you've been bringing me here because you think it might help with mastering my powers, my shifting. And then he gave her like a vague nod. That's when they talk about like Mab and Maeve and Deanna and everything.
Does it say how long ago like how old it was? Because I would
I don't
think
think so.
Erewhon hasn't had 2 word keys for that long.
Well, it was at least 1,000 years since Elena had died.
Yeah, but like King of Otterland gets a key when he's like 20, right?
Yeah.
And then they
Yeah.
use that key to get Mala's temple key, right? So like how long have those ruins been there? Wouldn't that be something Rowan would recognize recently? Like, oh yeah, somebody just wrecked this place like 10 years ago or something like that, you know? And then like within that, however many years between King of Otterland getting the first one and now,
Yeah, I guess that's
how
true.
long has Erewhon had this other word key? How long has he had 2?
Why wouldn't it just be ruins before he got the word key? It doesn't say that he wrecked the temple to get the word key.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, I could have just
found
been-
it in the ruins.
He just found it within the last 20 years.
Mhm.
The temple itself is 1,000 years old.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was probably all messed up before he got there. I'm still not really convinced that
Was it just sitting there then? Because what did he do? He just set it under a stone. Isn't that what it said? Under the flagstone, whatever that is.
Yeah.
What's a
What is a
flagstone?
flagstone? Kyle?
I think if the flagstone, if I'm remembering
You're
right,
finally catching on. Good job, guys.
if I'm remembering right, a flagstone is like, I don't know, it's similar to like the concept of a cornerstone. Like it holds up a
the
very
whole
important
building.
aspect of, I don't know. I can't remember if it's like a cornerstone that holds it up or if a flagstone is like sort of like a flagship where it's like, oh, this is the first stone of the temple, the oldest stone of the temple, or I don't know. I'm misremembering now.
I thought it would be
Mixing myself
outside
up.
where they raise the American flag. Underneath that is like
Yeah.
American flag.
whatever. And then whatever sports team they support goes under that. You know how flags work.
It's yeah, sure.
I go with that one. Are you Googling it, Connor?
I'm gonna look at the map because I tried to look this up earlier, and the
Google
only
what is a
thing,
flagstone.
well, no, not that, but just where the temple was, because the only thing I found earlier was that the temple was like near the Cambrian Mountains, but that would make sense because that's in Wendland.
It's just like a flat rock, isn't it? That like you can make a sidewalk out of them. You just looked it up, so why don't you tell us? You're about to do it.
Uh-huh. You're fine. It says a flagstone is a flat, hard stone that can be split into pieces for paving and is often used for outdoor projects. Flagstone
Wait,
is often used
outdoor?
for patios, walkways, garden edges, and rock walls. So they did say like it looks like a road could have been here. So
Right.
maybe it was under the road.
So he just put it under a rock.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
Way to go.
walked into some fire.
He just set
that'll
it
do.
under the welcome mat.
Only someone with Aelin's power or whatever could get it. So however that was protected.
My thinking is like these word keys are pretty indestructible. Should have just left it in his pocket and walked into the lava. Leave the rock in the lava.
Well, I guess, but the
Lava
whole
rock.
point was that somebody from his line was still going to have to use them to forge, right?
Just
She
leave it in
can't
the lava.
move fire, lava, whatever.
I
it
mean,
killed
yeah,
him,
I guess
so.
that's true.
Oh man.
I don't know.
Anyway,
Okay.
I think we spent too long on it. Let's move on.
Okay.
My next note is the quote, Dorian was not ready. You were. The choice Nahimi and I made was to ensure that things went according to plan. This is Elena telling them, like, nameless is my price, aka you're going to die, or at least, you know, someone from this bloodline, which could also be Dorian. And she asked, like, literally, why me? And so they chose Aelin at the time because she was ready. And this is the beginning of my first, I guess, theory for later. And I bring this up a couple times. It says Dorian was not ready. You were. All of that is past tense. that does not mean Dorian is not currently ready. Not that I want Dorian to die. Believe me, I don't. I also don't want Aelin to die. And now knowing where Aelin is and that Dorian is the one with the word keys now, maybe it is going to go in that direction. And that's kind of where the theory part of that is. And then I just thought it was interesting to go with the nameless is my price 100,000 times. And for also to get the reveal of the queen who was promised. And Aelin said, but not to the world, to the gods, to the keys, which I thought was super interesting.
Yeah.
To say it that
To
way.
the gods.
Yeah.
Quote unquote.
Well,
yeah.
just to the keys, I think was interesting too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Elena was the whole reason Arobin found Aelin to begin with. And the first thing that mother trucker did was steal the amulet of Orinth. Literally before he even picked Aelin up off the ground. Like she's dying. Yeah. And he's like, oh, and he probably, if he was in Terrasen, he probably recognized it, I'm assuming.
Oh, 100%.
Or just thought that it was valuable and decided to steal it from her and like tuck it in his pocket before he even saved her. Yeah. I'm so pissed about all of that.
I don't know why you're surprised. This, I feel like, tracks.
I'm still mad. Well, for both of them. Freaking Elena. That's what I was more mad about. That Elena was the whole reason that she ended up with the assassins in the first place.
And that she knew.
Yeah.
Knew what?
Like that she knew
like who he was.
What would happen. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You just said like cryptic. You basically Elena that sentence, and I wasn't sure what the ending was.
I mean, we're talking about like literally the next sentence that she said was, "Oh, I knew what he was." We all read the same book.
Did we know that Arobin was Terrasen? Like, is he from Terrasen, or was he just like living in Terrasen? Is that a thing?
I thought she said that there was a guy who just had a home nearby, and that I don't know if it was said that he was from Terrasen.
It was, well, I don't know that it was necessarily before he moved to Rifthold or if he just had another like estate there. But he did have like an estate near there. I think it was before he was technically king of the assassins. Yeah, his summer home.
His summer
winter home, I guess.
Yeah.
It would make sense that it's before his king of assassins because we know that the amulet is probably what helped him be successful because all of the Terrasen kings and queens had been that super successful or whatever, and no one would come touch them, and they always had some weird protection that nobody knew, kind of a thing. I feel like we've talked about this. You both look shocked. I really feel like we talked about this.
Did we talk about it?
And so I thought so because that was like.
Did.
Maybe you and I just talked about it.
Maybe you and I just talked about it. But
that just blew my mind a little bit.
What a hot take. Lauren.
I just saying, I thought we talked about it, but sure. I think that that's why he like was as powerful as he was and like had this huge rise out of nowhere, knowing that he was here literally just living in the forest by himself.
I feel like that's going to blow some minds.
Really?
I'm shook a little bit by that. Yeah.
Do you guys agree with that? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it totally makes sense.
I mean, yeah, for sure.
Look at me.
I think you could definitely argue that like when Brandon made it, there was some like protection to go along with that. And obviously, yeah, we could see that with the rulers of Terrasen previously, and they've alluded to something like that as well. So yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I always thought it was like maybe whenever they first brought up the amulet of Orinth, not even knowing that Arobin had it or that it was a word key or anything, that it was just some amulet that kept their family safe and people wouldn't want to touch them. And, you know, they knew it had some sort of power to it other than just being a cute amulet, but not obviously what it actually was. But
well, and I wonder if like people had tried to kill Arobin before or if they just had decided not to. I don't know if that had some kind of persuasion over people, like in terms of keeping him protected, because then obviously he wasn't killed until after they had taken it back from him.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it too.
That's crazy.
He wasn't killed till they took it back.
All right, onward.
But my question hold on. My question here was, is he actually Terrasen? Not like, did he just visit Terrasen? Not was he living there? Like, is he like from there? Like, yes. Is that his origin?
I don't think so.
Arobin is from an unknown kingdom that had been conquered by Otterlin. And not much else is known about his early history other than that he owned an estate in Terrasen near a river 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You good, Kyle?
Yeah, it became too much with the mustache and everything. So just Kale now.
Oh, it's Kyle.
Oh, you were here the whole time.
My boy.
My boy.
The mustache was pretty epic though. So
yeah,
it was
super epic.
Like I saw my paragraph coming up, and I was like, there's no way I could say that many words with my mouth half glued shut. Most of it's just a quote, though, and we kind of touched on it already, but Elena said, I knew what he was, what he'd likely do with you. I thought perhaps you could give those people who wished and dreamed of a better world, give them a chance. And later, but more than the dreamers and the debt, I wanted to give you time. And later still, when learning the price for Aylin's revival, I will not see Gavin or my children or my friends. I will be gone. They told me over and over, but I couldn't do it. It being leaving Aylin to die. And I just put that Elena is just as selfish as she's ever been. All of these are like me's and I's. Yeah. And I feel like this is supposed to come off as a sacrifice she made, but really she's still just doing everything she wants and not taking into account the ramifications or accepting the consequences because they mostly affect others over herself.
Yeah.
And I feel like also it's her, Aylin, and Maeve who do this. And they all have similar like, do what I want, and may the chips fall where they may, sort of thing. But I don't know, Elena specifically, and possibly more so because she's dead. Just like hands off the world, please. You had your chance.
Literally, yes.
Hands off the world.
You've done enough, Elena.
Stop it! Get your hands off.
Pencils down, please.
And the fact, because she was originally from this world, correct? She's not like the other gods that became beings or whatever.
I think she's Elena.
She's not a god.
Person.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what I thought. She's originally
just Elena.
From the world. Like I'll give her that because sometimes we talked about putting in quotations the gods earlier, and even that I'm kind of like the gods were kind of seemed cool early on in this series, but now I'm just like, oh, they were just people who like tripped and fell into another world, and people started making temples to them, and they were like, I guess I'm cool with it, instead of being like, no, I'm not a god, but whatever.
Yeah, Elena sucks is the moral of that story.
And Brandon's not too great either.
They're not the brightest.
No. Kyle just doesn't like anyone in their family line because he also hates Aylin.
Hate's a strong word. I'm not changing it, but it's a strong word.
Whenever we were picking costumes, one of my other choices was Manon. And Kyle wrote, will she be the bitch or the witch? And then whenever Aylin won, he literally walks in the room, swings open the door, goes, you're a bitch, closes the door and walks away. Sweet. Thanks, Kyle.
I told Lauren today, I was like, I'm the love of John's life now, finally.
I wasn't mad about seeing Lauren as Aylin either.
Ooh.
I came in as Kale. I was like, whoa.
Where's the broom closet?
Yeah, do we have a broom closet in this house?
Keep on the ears.
Okay, moving on. Chapter 69. Ayo. Gabriel giving Adian and Lysandra. This golden light shield thing was literally so cute. We hear that it's about Adian, and Adian talks about how, it was the whole orb and now it's around his skin and everything. Continuing the fight. Gabriel leaves, and then he looks over and he's like, oh, and it's on Lysandra too, later in a different chapter, way later in the fight. And I was just like, that's just so sweet that Gabriel would do that. And think about obviously Adian, but also Lysandra. I just love that for them.
Thanks, Gabriel.
I loved this moment when Adian kind of looks over at Lysandra, and the first Fae soldier who cleared the railing of their ship headed right for Lysandra. It was the last mistake the male made. She leaped, dodging past his guard, and closed her jaws around his neck. Bone crunched and blood sprayed. And I was just like... It was great. Definitely an awesome moment.
I also thought during that part, it's so funny to me that the first one that jumps on board scans the room and they're like, yeah, the leopard. I'm going for that one.
Yeah, for real. That's a good point. I did think this part was cute with Adian and Lysandra before things got crappy for them. This was a cute moment where Lysandra nuzzles him with her ghost leopard form or whatever, and he's like, the next time do that in your human form. And I was just like, oh, that's kind of cute. They're having their little moment. They're trying their best to be a couple. I feel like it's never been 100% with them. They're just not on the same page. It's been a super slow burn, but maybe it will happen. I don't know.
It's going great.
I don't want it to now.
We'll talk about that.
Have
in
a lot of
couple
feelings about that
chapters.
later.
Yes, you wrote in all caps. So, okay, I wrote in all caps on this next one, the wyvern. Like, I was so
Yay!
excited. I
The
literally texted Connor and I just went, yes, Abraxos. I was like, so excited. But that
He's
takes
the
us into
best.
chapter 70.
I just love this whole like epic moment as all of like the 13 are landing and Adian's talking to Astrid and he says, you and your 13 save our asses, witch, and I'll tell you anything you damn want. A wicked grin and an incline of her head. Then we shall clear the field for you. I just freaking love her. Astrid rocks.
I know. When she landed, she just goes, Astrid Blackbeak at your service. You're my favorite.
I didn't even I guess picture that correctly till now because they're in the middle of this huge fight
Yeah.
and they all come by and the only thing they're like, have you seen our friend? Until they're like, we're in the middle of something. They're like, oh yeah, we'll clear it
We'll
up.
take
first.
care of it. Yeah.
He's like fighting he's in the middle of a sword fight with a face soldier. Hey, have you got, wait, oh, can you point me in the direction of,
Holding up a
That's
poster.
funny.
Have you seen her?
Have you seen this witch?
Dorian's like, yeah, I have.
Yeah, I have.
And onward to chapter 71. I thought Kyle would like this comment. This is when they're dropped right next to Maeve after coming out of the mirror, and Aelin sees her and she says, not as impressive as Doranel, if you ask me, but at least a swamp really reflects your true nature, you know? And I originally wrote that Kyle's going to tear Aelin apart for this comment. And then I read it again. And I also got a little angry that she went with her typical attitude, sarcasm route. She knows she's probably completely out of her power. She has no reserves. At that point, knowing Maeve is there, she's a sitting duck.
First of all, yes. But I was also kind of got me revved up. I was like, come on, for goodness sakes. But I was more upset by her second comment in response to Maeve responds to her saying, oh, I'm glad you're in good spirits, blah, blah, blah. And Aelin's like, well, how could I not be with so many of your pretty fey males in my company? I'm like, yeah, just throw them under the bus while you're at it. Saying that, oh yeah, they're here too and they're on my side.
They are pretty.
They are pretty.
Can't blame a woman for enjoying what she's looking at.
Then Maeve.
Oh, John.
Fenris.
Beautiful.
Let me let my hair down.
But then Maeve shifts her focus to Elide and says, claimed by Queen and Witch and my second, it seems. And technically also Morath with how Vernon was trying to reclaim her and get her back there for, testing with the Volg. I just had to note here, it's kind of crazy how she ended up becoming so important to every side of this war. And Elide is now half the reason that a lot of them are fighting together against Erewhon and Maeve at this point, after she just her view of herself this whole time, she's been locked in a tower. She's like, what value do I bring to this table? She's been questioning her worth and all this stuff. And now she's one of the most important pieces in uniting all of these people. And she's highly valuable to a lot of them.
She's the peanut butter in the sandwich.
I'm sorry. What other ingredients do you usually involve in a peanut butter sandwich? Because it's usually not more than one other one for me.
The bread. She's making them all together. She's
All two of them.
She's sticking them all together. I'm here for it. I'd eat a lead sandwich.
I don't know.
Anyways, moving on. This is the moment where Lorcan summoned Maeve to save a lead. And I have never been more mad at Aelin in this moment because it is not that it's her fault that he did that necessarily. He still made a choice, right? She said she had known it was a summoning. She'd refused to immediately explain Ansel's presence, wanting to enjoy the surprise of it. And because she was waiting for that moment of her grand reveal and surprise instead of just communicating her plans, Lorcan reacted. Obviously a panicky moment into what he thought might be the right move to save a lead, not necessarily all of them, but for a lead, and completely effed up literally everything that was happening. And if Aelin would have just communicated her plans or at least been yeah, let's go down there. That's my friend, by the way. And instead of like sauntering down and making it a whole moment and having her little sassy back and forth with Ansel, like none of the end of this book would have just happened. No.
Yep.
Yeah. Just put a little gif of SpongeBob going, communication. Because it's true. Like, if she would have just communicated it, like you said, she couldn't have communicated it to Lorca directly because she didn't even really meet him before they showed up, honestly.
True.
There's no way she would have been like, I know you're trying to kill one of us, but I just want you to know I invited some friends. The whole element of surprise should really only be used on your enemies in a war. You gotta let your people know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah. On a slightly different note, Maeve says to Lorcan, then where is my ring? Where are my keys? And I said, I ask myself these questions several times a day. Who knew Maeve would be so relatable?
Is she also ADHD?
I just got a little tile for that exact reason so I can find my
I have one
key.
too.
Kyle's been hiding the tile around the house and like ringing it, and then the kids like try to find it. And it's like a game they're playing
It's
right
a good
now.
hide and seek game. I had written Maeve talking to Lorcan again when he's sort of holding a lead, getting ready to go. She says, don't get any stupid ideas about fleeing with her. I wrote, joke's on you, Maeve. Thanks to that wording, he can only get smart ideas about it. But then I also wrote, oh, wait, it's Lorcan. I guess that just leaves him with no ideas. So you're actually good.
I could not get this out of my head. This is after Maeve beats up Aelin a bit with her magic, and she's obviously struggling. She looks at a lead and she mouths to her to run. From like a lead's point of view, it says she would not, could not. And I've prepared a Dr. Seuss-like rhyme for this occasion.
Excellent.
She could not, would not run away. She could not, would not today. Not through the marsh, not in the fray. She would not leave. She had to stay. Not with Aelin on her knees and Maeve, her newfound enemy. She could not, would not turn and flee. Her place was here. She'd not be free. Not for the dark, not for the fear. She'd fight for all that she held dear. Though hope seemed gone, she'd never fall. A lead would stand and give her all. Nice.
10 out of 10.
I kind of want a version of all these books that way now. Like a child-friendly reading of Throne of Glass.
I'll begin right away.
That's the end of this episode. Thanks for tuning in.
Might take me a few years, but
Oh, that was epic, John. Good job.
That was
thank
good.
you. Yeah.
This one said, an elite thought the impact of Aelin Galathinius' knees hitting the sand might have been the most horrible sound she'd ever heard. And I just highlighted it and went, rip your old knees.
Hers and Dorian's now. The
Yeah,
two
the
people described
marble.
that way.
Ugh.
Yeah, but the marble over the sand, I don't
So-
feel
I'll
like
say,
sand
yeah.
can be that bad, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's if it's packed, it's just, it's
Yeah.
still solid. But yeah, marble I think would be worse because it has no give.
Yeah,
Surely in
exactly,
the sand
yeah.
you have a little
Mhm.
bit.
Their poor
Yeah.
old people knees at 19 too. What a life.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's the worst thing to happen to her.
Those are the first to go, are the knees.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
Yep.
They say.
And then we just get this one line from Maeve, who's talking to Gavriel and said, perhaps too much time with his unchecked half-breed bastard. And so, assumedly, she's known about Adian this whole time. Like, that's just been a whole up in the air. Like, does she know about Adian? She's going to come and steal him and add him to the cadre or whatever.
I thought they said she already did. Or maybe they just assumed she did. I thought Rowan said something about that earlier on.
I don't know that we've confirmed it. At least she does
Okay.
now, whether or not she did before this, too.
No, yeah.
Even this doesn't
Makes
say she's
sense
always known.
With her
but-
mind powers that she would have known all that.
That's a good point. Can she read
Well,
people's
and-
minds? Can she talk in
I would
italics?
I would assume she can read them if she can change them. Like, you got to know what you're working with before you mix it up.
Well, but Gavriel didn't know about Adian.
Stir your imagination. That's what Maeve did. I've been your sister the whole time.
That's true. Gabrielle didn't know. That's true. I guess, she would have just known from her little web of spies.
Well, but she did spend years trying to visit Aelin or get Aelin to come to her.
Mhm.
And so I'm assuming if she spent that much time like on that effort, she probably would have known about Adian in general.
Yeah.
And maybe if she saw him, she
Well-
would have put that together. if they look that much
And
alike.
the fact that like Faye and possibly the Vogue too are always like, oh yeah, I smell that blood on you. So maybe she's just like, oh yeah, you smell like Gabriel.
Oh yeah, because that's how
that's
Rowan knew the first
true.
time he met Adian.
That is.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
yep.
Mhm.
Good point.
Mhm.
Well
Good
done.
point. Good job,
10
everyone.
points to Gryffindor.
Okay.
Moving on.
I was honestly so mad at Manon in this moment. And I've never been mad at Manon, but I was fuming when all of this is happening and all of this crap happening to Aelin. And Manon's just like chilling. And she's just watching it happen. Even then when Maeve says, like, I have no quarrel with you, Blackbeak. If you stay out of this, then you're free to go. And she's just like, agreed. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I was like so mad at her. And like obviously in a little bit we find out that she had reasons to like not get involved, but for this little bit of time in between I was really mad at Manon, and I've never been mad at Manon, and I don't like it.
And then she literally like clocks a lead on the head with her sword.
I
Just
know.
knocks her out and carries her off. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
Tough love.
Mhm.
I just like Maeve taking away Gabriel and Lorcan's blood oath seems helpful to everyone else. Like, I get Gabriel loses his honor and she's like, oh, you're such an honorable man, but now you like what an honorable life he led under her service, I'm sure. But two pieces have now switched sides on the board. How was this in any way? I don't know what Maeve's thinking. Like, those are two power players that she's like, you're cut off from me. And they're clearly going to join the other side, or at least be against her now.
Yeah, I have the same note. And I even started scrolling down like, did you take my note? But I think I wrote it when it was Lorcan that got released. Because
Yeah.
it's like, I think I thought the same thing at that point. Like Gabriel, it's like, oh, that's nice for Adian. I guess he gets his dad. But then Lorcan too, I was like, he's literally, you just paired it together, the two most powerful Fae males. And you're just like, yeah, I'm done with you now. Like, okay, lady.
Yeah, and just last episode we were just talking about like, oh, she wouldn't do that. It would take too long to replace them or whatever. I'm like, oh, well, I guess not. Like, whatever. But
We were talking about killing them though. She just lets them go.
I mean, even that, yeah, but still.
I know. I don't get it. But sure,
I am
whatever.
surprised that she chose letting them out of the blood oath before just killing them.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm sure she has some sort of gross plan in mind. That seems to be her MO, so.
For Gabriel and Fenris, I guess because they were close. I mean, they're not the brothers, but like, didn't she say something specific about like, I think a better punishment would be for like you to be free and
because Fenris wants
something,
out.
Right?
Well, you tell him, Fenris, you're here.
Yeah, Fenris, what do you want?
What are your thoughts? What went down here? Oh, he's muted.
You're muted.
I mean, I don't really have any thoughts.
That's okay. Thank you, Fenris. I just would like everyone to take a moment and talk about how right I was again from the beginning, where Rowan and Aelin are mates, and it is official. And I've said, are they mates? Are they mates? They have to be mates, right? I swear they're mates. And I've said it 100 times, and I was like, I don't know how it makes sense that he thinks he had one before, but I swear that they are mates. And then it's the truth. And of course, freaking Maeve has to come through and just like screw it all up. She's basically being Elena, but for Rowan. And Aelin has actual Elena. And he just like screws up her life and is all cryptic and stuff, and literally kills his wife at the time with his what he thought was his old mate and his baby, which is super depressing. But they are officially mates, and I'm happy for them and excited and sad that they're separated, but adorable that they're actually mates. And then we find out that she is actually immortal. Maeve says like you're likely about 5 years away from settling. So these are the two things that this whole 7 books we've been like, but is she? But are they? I don't know. And then we get all the answers in one chapter.
I will say, like, the whole them being mates, and she goes into, I think, like, oh, I knew the whole time or whatever, is just another reason for me, too, to be like, that's gross. Like, an immortal guy, and you're like, oh, well, your mate's not even born, so I'll wait.
Oh, you
gotta wait. Yeah. Like, where she's like, oh, you could just wait for her to be born. Who knows,
and
how
come
long.
of age. Yeah.
She'll come of age. Yeah, wait till she's at least 18. Like, come on. It's just weird. The whole immortal thing and just waiting that long.
It's giving Jacob at the end of Twilight.
It is. Like, I thought the same thing. I was like, why is that weird to everyone? But none of the other stories that do. I mean, like, I get that he's like a little bit younger, but still.
She's a baby in Twilight.
I know. That's the extreme version of it. But
And an ugly one.
In the movie, they did her so bad. Read the books. The books are better. Okay. I will stand
The
by
baby's
Twilight
hotter in
all
the
day
books.
long.
Guys, the baby's so much hotter in the books. Read the book.
I will stand by Twilight till the day I die. Don't come after Twilight.
Anyway, it still just rubs me the wrong way. The whole age gap thing.
Yeah, it is definitely a weird concept, and like her seeing the future, I guess, in that. Which, if she can see the future for Rowan and Aelin, doesn't she see the future where she either wins or loses or dies or is whatever her outcome is, right? If she can see so far into the future.
I don't know.
I don't either.
Is that her power is seeing into the future, or did she say she used a witch mirror
I
to
don't
see
know.
into the future?
I thought she said she used like her dark magic or something.
Okay. That's what I thought. So then, yeah, I don't know if there's limitations to it.
Maybe it's when she met Rowan and saw into his future, like through his mind or something. Like she can't just be like, random people I need. I'm going to find your future.
Maybe it's one of those things where it's like, I can see all people's futures except my own.
Or it's just like certain aspects of the future. Like it can't just be show me the future of the whole world. Maybe she saw a glimpse of the future according to like her plans. It sounds like she kind of structured her whole plan around that, like around whatever she saw. But obviously her actions would have had an effect on whatever she glimpsed prior to that. So I don't know. That's confusing to me.
Yeah.
Me too. But there's one whole book left, so maybe we get all the answers. Empire of Storms, chapter 72. This is when things start getting really, really sad. Aelin has basically just given up and is for sure going with Maeve. And she turns to a lead and she's like, tell the others that I'm sorry. Tell Lysandra to remember her promise and that I will never stop being grateful. Tell Adian that it's not his fault. I wish he'd been able to take the oath, but Terrasen will look to him now and the lines must not break. And it's just like, I don't know, this whole going on her little apology tour with a lead, and it's just really sad.
Tour. Aelin Galathinius, the apology tour.
That's what people say when you go on an apology tour. Technically, you would go to all the different people and apologize, but like she's just telling a lead.
She's just.
I've never heard that phrase.
I have never
Are
heard
you
that
guys
either.
kidding me?
I've literally never heard that.
Is this one of those homeschool things where you
under a flagstone?
was this a homeschool thing where like your mom would make you go to all your siblings and be like, go on an apology tour. You have to say sorry to everyone.
No, you guys are going to air this episode and so many people are going to be like, they've never heard of the apology tour.
The apology tour.
An apology tour?
The
That's
apology
thing
tour
people
of 97.
say. Oh my
Get your
God.
tickets.
That's a thing people say. Oh my word.
Man. Getting
Sorry,
all worked
that just
up over
made me
there.
laugh.
I just can't believe none of you have heard that before. But okay.
Mm.
We're talking about a sad moment, Connor.
I know. My next note is literally about me crying.
I know.
So speaking of the cry counter, this was one for me in this episode when Aelin says to Elide, and tell Rowan that I'm sorry I lied, but tell him it was all borrowed time anyway. Even before today, I knew it was all just borrowed time, but I still wish we'd had more of it. Tell him he has to fight. He must save Terrasen. And this was the part that made me cry. And remember the vows he made to me, and tell him thank you for walking that dark path with me back to the light. Heart shattering.
It was really sad. Especially the vows he made to me. Is that their wedding vows?
Yeah. Which we don't even know yet at this point.
I know.
I mean, I knew.
Yet.
But
Yet, you say.
Yep.
What do you mean?
She said we don't know them yet.
Oh, no, I mean, we don't know that they're married yet. That's what I meant.
Oh, I
at
thought you
this
meant we don't
point.
know their vows yet.
No, unfortunately, this is another classic Sarah J. Maas off-page wedding.
Literally all
I
of
love
them.
it.
Uh-huh.
The part that made me cry though, like, so we're going on this apology tour, which is totally a thing, and she's saying all the things that she's sad about and sorry about. Then they go to whip her, which we've known from the beginning has been like her awful, bad, absolute don't do activity. It just said that like A whip by an overseer at Endovir was one thing, but one wielded by a full-blooded Fey male, ... And then like goes on to like describe it all and just her like being whipped and stuff. And yeah, it just, that made me cry, like hardcore, just for her and in that moment. And I think it was like all the buildup of all the stuff. And that's what finally like made me cry when the actual whip hit her for the first time, and her just talking about how she was like going back into that place she never wanted to go again, where she wasn't like really with her body. She had broken down all these walls and finally gotten somewhere, you know, in herself. And so just to like see her go back and stuff, and it was just really, 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 really sad and depressing for her. And then they bring out this whole iron box and the whole mask involved too, and it's just like got really intense really fast. I feel like for specifically her. Yeah, that's a lot. And then we jump into chapter 73, and this is Manon's POV now. And Manon said, didn't dare give the ancient cold-eyed queen one hint that Aelin did not possess the word keys. I'm not mad at Manon anymore because she was being helpful, but I don't think I realized like while reading that I was actually like holding my breath. Like I'm reading all of this and I'm crying and it's like all happening. And then I read this and I'm just like, oh, okay. At least the word keys are safe. I'm not mad at Manon anymore. Maybe there's hope. Maybe things will be okay.
Yeah, I had totally forgotten about that too. That she like did a little switcheroo, because usually she'll like give it away a little bit how she writes it like in the moment, but she didn't do that this time. And then you just like find out later from Manon that she like slipped her the keys, and you're just like, oh shoot.
Because that's one of the things that went through my mind when Aelin was like, all this was happening. Was that like she has the word keys.
Yep. Crazy. I love this part. This is when Manon and Elide have kind of retreated, but Manon kind of hides and she's like looking on to Aelin getting chained up and them starting to leave or whatever. And she noticed Fenris. It says Fenris's eyes were alive with hatred as he watched Maeve and Cairn. And for some reason, this got me all jazzed up because it's just queuing him up to do something rash or like somehow do something for Aelin through all this. And I'm just like, yeah, like something's going to happen. Something's going to happen there. It just got me like super excited.
Gonna sickle.
So much you wanted to dress up like him today.
That's right.
And then my last note for this chapter in chapter 73 is the last line from the chapter from Manon's POV. And it said, and for the sake of their world, Manon prayed the Queen of Terrasin could survive it. If only so, Aelin could die for them all. As so sad for everyone and depressing and just kind of an epic line at the same time, but also really sad. So,
yeah. So chapter 74 is one of the other most famous lines. I feel like this was a line I had seen before we got to this point when John and I first read the book. And so I kind of knew that it was coming. And then obviously this time knew that it was coming. And I like am bummed that that's something that people keep spoiling for first time readers, but
it didn't get spoiled for me. So
it didn't. Oh, good.
Yeah,
okay.
Had no idea.
Good. Okay. So Rowan shows up and he's asking, where's Aelin? Where is Aelin? And he says, where is my wife?
Where is my wife?
My wife! My wife! My wife! That's my wife!
My wife!
Oh my God.
My wife! The Dark One has returned.
My wife. Throw one of those in there.
That works.
So the Triwizard tournament ends. Rowan finally shows up.
Finally.
And he says, where is my wife? Somehow, even though like I didn't know the exact moment it was happening or how it was going to go down, like the first time I read the series, this time I feel like it made me more emotional knowing that it was coming here. I had to bring up though, in the last episode, we were talking about this quote and I knew during this conversation that this was why, but I couldn't say anything and John had forgotten. And so he tried to get me to tell him during the episode what we were talking about. And I was like, no, it'll be more fun if I don't tell you. We were talking about the quote. Indeed, Rowan Whitethorn now rubbed his face. She, being a lead, suspected it was as much feeling as the Fey Prince would show. Rowan lowered his hands, the others watching him, waiting for his orders, even Adian. A lead started as realization slapped her as she searched for proof but found none. So I think in this snippet that we get earlier in the book, I think a lead somehow realized that Rowan was now their king, but she didn't see a ring on his finger when he lowered his hands. It was just the fact that Adian was even looking to him for orders now on how to move forward. Hi, Minnie. And
Hi, Minnie.
save Terracin. So we had like a whole conversation about it in the last episode, so I just had to bring it up here that I think this was what Elite was realizing
that makes sense.
without having any proof at the time.
And it obviously would have been a big cue that Adian didn't have anything to say and that he was looking to Rowan,
Right.
being, because
Adian he was
being
there.
Adian.
Adian and Lysandra were there when they got married.
Yeah.
Adian knew.
So he knew, and he was like, not giving orders because he knew technically Rowan was the king. Yeah, that makes sense. Good
Crazy.
stuff.
Yeah.
Dang.
Obviously, reading this for the first time, had no idea that was going to happen. Complete shock, and was just bawling my eyes out, like full on crying multiple times. Probably, I only counted it as one other cry counter, but if I need to count it as more, that's okay. But the lines specifically that I know got me were, "For the first time in centuries, Lorcan wept for his friend. He kind of caused all of that, all the things that just kind of happened in that moment." And that, from Lorcan's POV, and it just said, and she had married Whitethorn, so Terracin could have a king, Whitethorn's wife, his mate. I'm just crying. It's depressing. I believe this is them finding out about Lysandra's and Aelin's plan for Lysandra to basically fake to be Aelin for literally the rest of her life. Aelin would die to forge the new lock to seal the keys into the gate to banish Erewhon, but no one would know, no one but us, not while you wore her skin for the rest of your life. I just feel like this is literally not fair to anyone. And I know Con's about to go off on it, and we can talk about it after Connor's comment here, but I have so many feelings about this plan of them planning it with not telling anybody, really, is more what it is. And just agreeing that that's what it is. And that Lysandra didn't even really have any input, it sounds like. It's more just she just took the order and was like, okay, my queen said it, so I'm going to do it, kind of a thing. And I don't know. Connor, you talk, and then we can, I don't know. I'm getting heated.
I have a lot of feelings about this, but my feelings are more toward Adian and not necessarily toward this whole plan. Obviously, the plan sucks for everybody. Lysandra, though, was in agreement about it in some capacity. I mean, it doesn't seem like she was really pushing back on it. I think she was willingly making this sacrifice for her friend, for her queen. I don't know if she agreed that that was the best thing for the kingdom, but what I'm upset about is that Lysandra made this choice to give up her life for Aelin, whether or not, let's just leave aside the validity of the plan for a moment and whether or not it was a good idea. Lysandra has been the real MVP this whole time. She was hooking everybody up with her jeweler back in Queen of Shadows. Since magic has returned, she's been able to shapeshift again. She's basically been training herself just to take care of everything. She's saving everybody's asses left and right.
Preach it.
And Adian has professed his love to her. He's said he's going to marry her. He's been pining after her and trying to, patiently wait for her to be ready and whatever. And then he turns around and yells to Lysandra, "You can go to hell. You can go to hell, you lying bitch." About Aelin's plan. It wasn't even her plan. And she had agreed to give up her life pretending to be someone else. Adian does not deserve her. He's a big garbage baby. The way that I gasped at this line, I am so mad at him. I was slightly on board with him yelling at Aelin, just saying the things that needed to be said to her in that one moment earlier. But he has now snapped at so many people who did not deserve it at all. And then him saying this to Lysandra after saying that he was going to marry her and all the things he promised to her. And then this isn't even about her making the plan. That's not even her plan. And the fact that he just called her a lying bitch and told her to go to hell, I'm I can't forgive him for that. I just can't. So this is my rant mostly about Adian. I'm more pissed about that than I am about anything else.
I think that his surprise and his feelings in that surprise are probably valid. He should not have said those words to her. They're definitely directed at the wrong person, because that definitely should have been to Aelin. But I could understand where, like, literally he feels like that's his future and that's what's going to happen. And she made this decision without him. And Aelin obviously made this decision without him. And it affects his literal entire future, because it's even like part of the plan that he still helps have babies so that they still look like
Ash Rivers. Yeah.
Ash Rivers or whatever. Like, that's super messed up. And I think he's completely valid to be pissed off. I obviously don't agree with how he said it or to who and whatever. But like, I'm pissed off for him and for literally everyone. Like, that plan sucks.
Yeah. But it's like I tell my literal toddlers all the time. It's okay to be angry, but it's not okay to be mean.
I'm with you there. He definitely should not have said those things.
But yes,
like, I get where he's coming from. Just not towards him.
Yeah.
I thought this was a really, obviously, this was like a huge overreaction, in my opinion. Yeah, he has a right to be upset. But yeah, like pointing the finger at Lysandra, especially, I feel like when they were the only two that witnessed the wedding.
Yeah.
You'd think that them being there and witnessing that, like, okay, they're now married, gotta be a lot more to like what's going on. And for him to just, I don't know, not even like think of the worst happening. I feel like he wasn't ready. He's probably still not ready for what Aelin is like destined to do. Like, he's not come to terms with it yet in his like own right. So now he's just pissed, and he like said that at Lysandra, which she literally had. It's like, what was she supposed to do? Like, say no? Like, I mean,
Kyle's nodding his head.
Kyle.
I was like, yep, that's what she should have done. That's exactly what she should have done.
Kyle's got notes.
But anyway.
I'm thinking though on that, like in that regard, maybe he thought that by being part of this secret wedding that he was in on her big plan. But like, I'm surprised that he didn't ask follow-up questions. Like, why are you getting married in secret at this moment? Because obviously there would have been more to that and a reason they were doing it that way. And like it with that timing.
Yeah, but would they have told him?
Rowan didn't ask that. He had no idea about this plan either. He's just like, sure, let's just get married on a boat.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that we know.
I thought Rowan knew about the plan,
like,
but he didn't know Maeve was going to like show up and take her.
I don't think he knew that Lysandra was going to like fake to be her for forever, because later, whenever they're planning to leave to go save Aelin, he even says like he can only imagine what his role in this plan would have been to like fake be her king or whatever the entire time.
Point. True.
And I don't think he knew about that. She said, "Tell him it was all borrowed time."
Yeah. Good point. Yep. True.
Yeah.
True. All right, Kyle, let's get after it.
I know. I just said he has a right to be pissed. Like we always say, he shouldn't have said those words, like a direct reflection of what happened with Kale and Aelin when she came back, because Aelin sucks at relationships. But Aelin has been lying to everyone still, just like Elena, making decisions based on what she thinks is best, not taking into account anyone else. And I have the three examples that have been listed: Rowan, Lysandra, and Adian. Rowan has to be king if she dies. No, he doesn't. The world must be saved, and that's it. Kingdoms will figure themselves out, just like they always have and do in fiction and reality. Save the world, sure. Get rid of the darkness. It will rebuild itself. It may not revolve around your family. Heaven forbid. Boo-hoo. Lysandra must pretend to be Aelin. Holy crap, what a horrible fate to never be able to be yourself. And for what? A show, basically. A puppet of someone who, in these circumstances, is dead. The world doesn't need Aelin beyond what her powers and possible sacrifice provide in the form of salvation from the Valk. After that, the world will be fine. Nations rise and fall. Adian, I think the worst of all, has to play the part of an unknown father in it. A father who would not take part in his children's lives in the public eye. Sound familiar? Because maybe his dad didn't know him, but Adian would know his children and would never be able to publicly claim them, and possibly not even privately claim them, for the risk of people finding out. What a terrible, terrible plan to force on anyone. And we've all said, like, oh, Lysandra did it because she's friends. Lysandra doesn't have to do it, and she definitely doesn't have to keep it a secret. Anyway, that concludes the part of the podcast where Kyle comes out and says an angry rant
about Aelin.
Hey, well
it's
deserved.
The worst.
It is the worst.
Yeah, it's I'm not a fan of this plan. And Kyle and I were talking about it too after reading. Like, I really think that, because like later, and obviously we can talk about this later, when Lysandra officially takes the role of Aelin, when all these other people come out of the woodwork to be part of this army or whatever, it just happens to be all at the same time, just a few minutes too late, she comes out and pretends to be Aelin. I honestly think if they were like, Aelin's been taken by the enemy, I don't think everyone would be like, all right, well, she's not here. I'm going to go
Let's
back
pack it
home.
up.
She's not here. Guess I'm done. Like, I think they would be like, oh no, we have to like help save her. That's part of our like blood oath to her, or not blood oath, life debt, our
Yeah.
life debt to
Yeah.
her. Or just be like, oh, that sucks that happened, but we're all here and we can still fight for her. And like, I don't know. I just feel like it still would have had the same impact as far as all these people being there together, and they still could have figured it out maybe with Rowan as king or something else. Like,
Yeah.
none of these people coming here are coming to serve Terrasen specifically, like her as queen. Like,
Right.
that's not the role there. That's not what's happening. I think.
Yeah, that's kind of my whole point too, is like the plan is not become queen, right? The plan is make sure Erewhon is not released. Beyond that, who cares? Like, you are going to die someday and the kingdom will belong to someone else regardless. So it doesn't matter if your family's in charge or you retake your land or whatever. You just save the world and then you're done.
Yeah, save the world. Is
Sit
that
down.
too hard to ask? Gosh.
It's not that hard when all it takes is you dying. Just go do it.
Well, and like Adian's her cousin. Would he not be next in line for the throne?
that's the
Did we
thing,
talk
too, is
about
like-
that? Because then
It's a
like
good point.
Lysandra could have been queen with Adian.
Anyway.
Well,
I talked about
Not-
that with Lauren.
not
where
anymore.
I was like, Rowan doesn't have to
Yeah,
be
not anymore.
on the throne at all.
that chance went out the window at the wedding. Maybe that's another reason Adian should be pissed.
I don't know.
There's plenty of
Oh,
reasons.
goodness.
It's
Yeah.
a lot.
Anyway.
And I'm still mad about it. Just putting that out there. We're done with this book
Yeah.
and we're moving into the next one. Still mad. Anyways.
Aelin does not deserve anything that's happening to her right now, I would like to say.
Oh, okay.
But
Sure.
she also does not deserve these friends because she's using them as pawns on a chessboard and really, as long as they do what she wants. I feel like she's very ends justify the means, which is sometimes a valid way to do things. But the way she's going about it, not really.
Manon says that she's going to go find the Crokins and she's going to raise an army with them for Aelin Galathinius, for her people and for ours. So again, putting it out there, she knows Aelin's gone and she's doing something for Aelin. That's her motivation. I feel like all the other people could have done it too, but obviously we didn't take that road, Sarah. I also called that she was going to go try to find all the Crokins, so that's happening. It'll just be interesting to see like who's also there, because I still think a lot of the Blackbeaks are also there and it's like a whole thing happening or whatever, but that will be pretty epic when all the witches show up. And then this is the other part of me talking about Dorian, with the whole like he wasn't ready in the past, but he could be maybe in the future. And it said like Dorian had slid the keys into his pocket, and the road that now sprawled away before him curved into unknown, awaiting shadow. It did not frighten him. So I think old Dorian would have been peeing his pants. This Dorian is not afraid. He's ready to like take an adventure and do the things. This is feeling very early Aelin story. So maybe Dorian will get there, kind of a thing. All of that to be said, great points. What I actually commented on this moment in my Kindle notes was it said, curving into unknown. And I highlighted it and just went, into the unknown. And he's having his Frozen 2 moment.
Yes.
That's right.
And that's what's happening for Dorian.
The next stage in his Elsa era.
Okay. This is chapter 75. This is the end of Empire of Storms. Crazy.
Holy moly.
Yes. It said Rowan had married Aelin before dawn barely 2 days ago. And I wrote in my notes, ugh, why didn't I get invited? I'm seriously so mad that I
Where's the
didn't get
invite?
to see this wedding. I wanted to be there.
Yeah. And she does this to us every time.
Yeah, but I mean, no offense to the other times. Great books. Love all Sarah's books. But like, I've been with this lady for literally like twice the page count of all those other ladies.
Yes. We worked hard for this one.
But you really only known her for like under a year, timeline wise.
That's about the same time for the others, if not less, in Crescent City. Crescent City is, I feel like, really fast.
Yeah, it is super fast.
I should be invited to this wedding. I'm mad. Just write it in there. Like, I don't see why that could have been a bad thing. Why isn't that the bonus chapter? What the heck, Sarah? But that leads me into my next point, where it said in italics, fight it. He willed her, sending the words down the bond, the mating bond, which perhaps had settled into place from the first moment they'd become Karanam, hidden beneath flame and ice, and a better hope for the future. Italics, fight her. I'm coming for you. Even if it takes me 1,000 years, I will find you. I will find you. I will find you. And first of all, love that sentiment from him. He's epic, and it's going to be cool, him going to get her and all the things. My real point here is that these italics conversations, and they were because they were mated, and it's going down the mating bond. And I've been saying this whole freaking time, and you're all making fun of me for italics conversations, and all the people on the internet are like, I don't think that's why it is. And I'm telling you right now, it was the whole time, and I was right. That was the comments on the internet.
Yeah. I liked it.
Firstly, I'm glad you put this note because I actually forgot to highlight it myself where he's like, I will find you, I will find you, I will find you. Because I was all about the things that come in threes earlier.
Sure.
I found out through a totally separate circumstance that in like Irish, Scottish, Welsh mythology, all that sort of thing, saying things 3 times supposedly makes them real or come true. And I thought that was interesting. Sort of like Beetlejuice.
Don't bring it up.
Shh.
Red rum.
Candlejack. My other comment to this, though, was like, do you think italics make it through iron coffins?
I have a comment on this later, I think. I don't know that I highlight so much more than I actually put in here. I just want to put that out there for as much notes as that I have. Hate you. And in here later, right before, it's like the very end of the book, right before he like takes off to go get her, he says something else down the bond, and he says that he felt something back.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't like officially say like Aelin said something back. It's more just like he felt like a spidey sense that there was something on the mating bond.
They were multiplying.
Yes. He turned into John Travolta.
Gross.
Sandy.
He is on the beach. Okay. This is the line where Galen finally shows up and he says, where's Aelin Galathinius? I highlighted, this is my comment that I wrote. Actually, it's Aelin Whitethorn, but I'm not surprised you don't actually know since none of us were invited to the wedding. Still upset. It's literally like 3 paragraphs later. Still mad. But Galen shows up and all the people, and then all of a sudden the silent assassins show up from over the dunes, I guess, that they walk over. And it just, was the Rowan remembering Aelin saying, I'm going to call in all my old debts and promises, raise an army of assassins and thieves and exiles and commoners. And this is the Avengers Endgame moment. And like all the people, and they're like, remember me from over here, and I'm coming from over there. And then we get over to Tower of Dawn, and we see Kale doing the same thing with his people, and everyone's coming together, and it's just going to be some big epic battle that I'm highly terrified for in the next book. And it's going to be cool, I guess.
I'd like to say, I think I've said it before, maybe, but I'll say it here because it makes sense. We do have Selena to thank for these, not Aelin. And it's so we can talk about it more in the bonus chapter because he talks about Selena being a fraction of the whole. But if Aelin was Aelin the whole time, there's no way she would have made these allies and friends. Given how she's acted towards others, now that she's fully Aelin and like taken on the personality of like, I'm the queen, I do not see any of those past stories going the same way at all. Of like showing kindness and showing mercy and trying to connect with people. Because right now she is a steamroller. She's very much just going through, getting to what she needs, which is like valid in some ways. Because right now you're in the final moments, but
I was going to say, I think some of that is a matter of circumstance.
Yes.
Like Aelin is not in a place that she can just be casual and sit back and whatever. But also it just becomes one of those things that like, that's what's happened. That's what was written down in the book by the author, and we can't change it. So,
oh yeah, I get it. And there's something to be said about like, she knew the whole time who she was and knew that it was a possibility that she might need to do something with her life with Terrason and all that, but not until like things went down. Really, I think it would have been by the end of, I think the 3rd book that she would have had that shift because things are starting to happen that are related to her past. But I don't know. There's a lot that could have changed had she, again, communicated with others, but
That's definitely true. I just had a quick note from Rowan's POV here. It says Aelin Galathynius had raised an army not just to challenge Morath, but to rattle the stars. And it's rattle the stars has been repeated like a few times throughout the series. And I kept thinking that Nehemia was the first person who said it, but it was actually Elena, which makes me like it less. But in book 1, Elena says to Aelin, "You could be different. You could be great, greater than me, than any of us. You could rattle the stars." And she goes on to say, "You could do anything if only you dared. And deep down, you know it too. And that's what scares you the most." So initially, I thought he was saying this because it was something Nehemia had said to her, which sounded a lot cooler. But now I'm kind of mad that Elena's the one who started this phrase.
Are you not mad at Nehemia for being part of Aelin's schemes from the beginning?
I mean, yeah, but
aren't they the same in the same boat?
I wouldn't say that. I think Elena did just as much leading Nehemia around as she has been with Aelin her whole life. It's because Nehemia, when she got to the mirror and spoke to Elena for the first time, it said something about how she'd been picking up all of the clues and putting them together, thinking that they were for her. And Elena was like, "Well, now that you're here, let me just sacrifice you too." Elena basically just groomed her into that whole situation. I don't think, and Nehemia was still a friend to her in some capacity. They really were close, and she cared for her and sacrificed her life for Aelin. But I don't know. So I have feelings on that too. But really, just Elena sucks, and I'm more mad at her than I am at Nehemia.
Yeah. To be fair to Elena, she said it once, and then Aelin said it multiple times. It was kind of one of those things where she heard Elena say it and be like, "I like that. That's mine now." And she said it over many books.
She does.
Yeah.
Kind of like the line Sam says.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I cried at this next part. And the quote is just, "When Lysandra, as Aelin, as she had promised, swept for them, grinning wide, that smile, it had punched a hole through his heart. Lysandra had taught herself Aelin's smile, that bit of wickedness and delight, honed into that razor edge of cruelty." And that just made me cry for all of their fate here. For Rowan, not knowing any of this and just getting surprised to see Aelin again and acting like herself and all of those things. And just for Lysandra, literally she just died. Lysandra just died and she is now Aelin. And that is just where she's going to be for all she knows, literal rest of her life. And that is so sad for her.
Stuck
and not
in another
fair.
body again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Aelin went through all that trouble to free her, and then now she's basically enslaved again. Yeah.
Turned her back into what she was. Turned Aedion into his own dad. What a bitch!
Oh my gosh. This is also just on a lighter note. I'm just here to point this out because I love them. And this was actually kind of cute somehow in the middle of all of this chaos. It says, "Dorian climbed into the saddle behind Manon and wrapped his arms around her waist. The witch said something that made him smile, truly smile." And I'm just here to say that I love them. And that's all.
No, I totally agree. I highlighted their whole interaction of them flying off together and stuff. I also just love that I feel like he's always been a bystander, in the background. They all make plans and he's just kind of there. And instead it's they're making a plan. I'm going here. I'm doing this. And Dorian comes in and is and I'm doing this. And I have a plan and this is what's happening. Manon didn't say it. And he's I'm just going with her. And said he's the one actually speaking. And I'm pretty sure Aedion was even you don't want to come with us and do this instead kind of a thing. And he's "No, this is what I'm going to go do." And I'm just yes, Dorian, live your best life. Get the girl. Fly
He's
away
the
and do your
king.
thing.
Makes his own calls.
Love him.
Yes, me too. And then this is the literal last line of Empire of Storms. It says, "Unleashing a cry that set the world trembling, Prince Rowan Whitethorn Galathynius, consort of the Queen of Terrasen, began the hunt to find his wife." And he freaking took her last name. Oh, I'm dead. I love them. Also, what an epic line. I'm stressed for them. It was a stressful ending.
I know. It is epic, but then you're oh crap.
Well, and Tower of Dawn ends in a kind of a happy ending. Obviously it's not settled, but you feel somewhat happy leaving that book just with the way it ends. And this, I'm feel I'm still in the middle of the book. The book did not end here, right? That's not it's nope, that's it.
Yes. So now imagine with me You finish Empire of Storms on this cliffhanger. And then Tower of Dawn comes out, and you start the whole timeline over again to read Kael's story.
Yeah.
See, Lauren and I talked about that, though, and I don't... Correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren. I know I landed on this. I don't know where you landed. I would have been fine ending on that, because I would have been like, okay. And then, like, yeah, she's
Okay.
trapped. The others are going these places. If anything, I would have been like, I am more than willing to take a break and go over to see how Kale's doing, and then come back to them all together.
I'm surprised to hear you say that, because you have been very adamant about how you didn't even need to read Assassin's Blade when we read it, because we read it third,
Yeah.
because it was going back to old information. And I get Kale's new information,
Yeah.
but like it's still going back in the timeline and in the story.
Yeah, but it's new information. Like, there's a totally different story here. There's nothing in Empire of Storms that I would have gone back and read Tower of Dawn and be like, oh, I already know what happens because I've already read into this part of the timeline, because it's a totally different story.
I don't know. I'm glad I read the tandem read, like
Really?
going back and forth. Yeah, 100,000%. We did have a person from our Patreon. We play Dungeons and Dragons in our Patreon every other week, and she was talking about this book before we started our session, and said that she finished Empire Storms and then planned to skip Tower of Dawn completely because she just thought it didn't matter. She's like, I don't need Kale's story, like whatever, and was just gonna go on. And then I thought that's what happened. And then literally we had like a game night live event this weekend, and she was like, no, I read Tower of Dawn. Someone told me like, no, girl, you need to go back and read it, and she did. But it makes me wonder if like other people do that. Like they're just
I've heard that.
because
That
I know
would be
people skip. I know
crazy.
people skip Assassin's Blade like all the time. Like that's a regular thing.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be crazy to skip Tower of Dawn completely.
Yeah, I agree.
And I
To
also
cop out.
told Lawrence, like, I may feel this way because I read them both at the same time. So I didn't feel a major rush to get through another book. Like, it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm going to have to wait forever on this cliffhanger. So maybe if I did read it one after the other, I would be like, oh, wow, it's a weird place to take a break. But
It makes me
Yeah.
think about the order of Assassin's Blade, where how like your guys' first read, you found out Dorian gets put in a collar, and then you have
Right.
to go back and read
Right.
all of Assassin's Blade. That's
Yeah.
a little rough. Like this is basically that. Aylin's put in a box with a mask on her face.
Yeah.
Pause. Let's go read about Kale being whiny over down in Annika. Like, I don't know. I don't think I could do it. All right, let's
All
jump
right.
into Tower of Dawn.
Yes, but before that, I need to change into my other form.
Oh,
You just want to take the wig off.
we have a costume
Oh.
change.
whoa. Whoa.
Is that John making that noise, or is that a recording?
Definitely, yes.
Definitely John. Oh, hi John.
Whoa.
I mean, hi Fenris.
He just barks the rest of the time. We're like, yeah.
What is it?
All right.
Can you hear with the headphones over that?
I can.
Oh,
Wow.
lovely.
Okay.
I
Hi,
love this
Fenris.
for
Welcome
us.
back.
Oh, the pause. That's a
Aw.
nice touch.
All right. First comment. It was actually, I think it's the first line of Tower of Dawn, chapter 58. Morning came and went, and Irene was in no rush to rise from bed. Neither was Kale. They ate a leisurely lunch in the sitting room, not bothering with proper clothes. Hafiza would decide. And I'm like, what a first sentence coming over from Empire of Storms. I was like, get up, you lazy bastards. I already have anxiety about what they don't know. Like, good Lord.
Oh, I was opposite.
It's like we were just saying, like you leave on that, like,
Yes.
yeah, Aylin's in a iron box and all this crap is going on. And then you're like, oh, they're just taking their time getting out of bed in the morning. They have a leisurely lunch, a salad, some fruits and nuts.
I appreciated it because it was like so stressful from the other place. It was like, oh, good, a break. We're taking a break from the anxiety.
Oh my gosh.
This is Irene and Kale talking about like the scrolls and the books that Hafiza has, and then they were mentioning that there were some in Otterland and like in the glass castle. I think it was Kale who said the king somehow missed them during his initial research and purging, and then Irene says, or perhaps some god made sure he did. She lifted a brow. I don't suppose there are many Bast cats at the library. And I was like, are the cats gods? Is that what she's telling me here?
They'd like to think so.
I mean, because literally everything else is a god at this point. Like the gods I thought were gods are not gods. And then there's other gods in this town that like have a bajillion of them. And so now all of a sudden the cats are gods too? Am I supposed to be on cat god watch?
I think she's referencing that the Bast cats are named after Bast, who is a god. So I don't know if she thinks that like Bast is somehow influencing them or watching over the library through the cat. I don't know. There's not really a direct tie anywhere. It's just that the cats were like named after this. Like I think Bast is like a warrior goddess. Everybody's a warrior goddess. I don't know.
I'm here for it, I guess. And part of this conversation, Irene says, I think the Vogue are parasites, infections. I think I can heal them. I think the Vogue, I think they are parasites, and I can treat the people they infect. That just made me view the Vogue differently for some reason. Like I've read other books or series, I guess, where it was like a virus or an infection that like weirdly took over the people at the same time. And so just, I don't know, using the word infection for it just changed my view on the Vogue completely.
It's just venom.
Yeah, I don't know, I guess. Anyways, that was just a whole thing. But I also just want to point out how proud I am for myself for calling this like super early. That they could, like the healers could like heal the Vogue or like take them out or whatever. So just keep bringing that one up because I was right. And then the whole owl thing, the whole time we've been here, I think it's Silba, is that the god who has the owl, and we see them like all over the place. And I didn't even think about how there was an owl on the tapestry in Selena's room. So that happened like from the beginning. And then Maeve does have an owl and they talk about it for a little bit. And I guess I just was supposed to be on owl watch this whole entire time. Connor kept us on God watch and kept like keeping us on track and kind of pointing that out to us, which I really appreciate. Don't give it like for real life, because I feel like it helps this whole God thing make more sense. But I needed an owl watch. So if I ever reread.
You were on it during Maeve though. Like I remember specifically you were like, what was that owl all about?
Who? You were like, who? I do remember like questioning the owl, but like nothing happened with it forever. So I guess it just got lost in my memories. I don't know.
Don't they say it later in the chapter section?
They talk about
Something
how
about
the
owls,
owl, they think that it must be a person, but that's all that I think I know about it.
So in Air of Fire, the attack on Mistward, it says, to their credit, Rowan's friends did not hesitate as they raced for it, the wolves leading the way, the bird and Osprey close behind.
An osprey is a hawk.
Oh,
not an
is
owl.
that Rowan?
Yeah.
No, it's just whatever
No.
the other friend is.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking that was Vaughn. Okay, maybe
I mean,
I'm
it might
not
be.
on the right
It
thing
might be
then.
Vaughn, but it's a
Mr.
hawk,
Vaughn?
not an owl.
Who's
A
Vaughn?
9th grade Spanish teacher?
Vaughn
Teacher
is
in here.
the last member of the cadre. Yeah, you're right. That is a hawk. Sorry. I was thinking Vaughn was the owl that was with Maeve.
Victor
but
Von
different
Bloom?
Nope.
Is Vaughn Fenris's brother?
Connell is Fenris's brother.
Yeah, Lauren.
Jeez.
Oh, your birds.
Oh my god. So embarrassing. I'm really embarrassed for you.
Ospreys, twins. Jeez.
Sheesh.
Oh my gosh. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, I was thinking that Vaughn was the owl, but it was not. I don't know who the owl
Her
is.
face is so red.
You did make her really embarrassed too. She's so red. Now it's turning into anger.
Guys, really go after her in the comments for that one. Woo!
What the heck?
I'm the one that didn't know.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Anyway.
Whew. Okay. They discovered that Mala was not the person who made the immunity ring thing, that instead it was Silba. And we, at the end of this book, have learned now that Irene is Silba's heir. So could Irene just start like making these rings left and right and start just saving all her friends? Is that something she could get on? That'd be convenient.
Do we know how she made the rings?
No, but they have a bunch of books they can't read. Maybe it has
She
the
made it out
answers.
of mort metal. Whatever metal that was.
Mort metal?
metal.
Mort metal. I love it.
It's probably what it is. Guys, I think this is the first time ever that we found a chapter I don't have notes in. Wow. Chapter
my
59. I'm just going to sit back.
All right. Tower of Dawn, chapter 59. I got beef. I got mad beef. This is when they're talking to Hussar, And it says, Hussar shrugged. I assume it's what she tried to sell me when she wrote me a message weeks ago asking for my aid from one princess to another. Kale took a shuddering breath. What did Aelin promise you? Hussar smiled to herself. A better world. And I wrote, I got beef with this biatch. First, that she received a message from Aelin weeks ago and not only said nothing, but also didn't help. And two, I call utter BS on the whole logistics of their spies from around the world, because there is no way that they are getting all of that information of the battle. Like, she knew like every little aspect.
Thank you. I
And
said that at the
especially,
beginning
like,
of this
that
series
accurately.
or this book.
You did?
Yep.
I was talking about how they have like information better than the internet, like that they just like have literally everything, and like immediately too.
I'm not buying it. I wrote, it feels like one of those things where for the plot's sake, they have to have a way of getting info. So the author is just like, oh yeah, they got spies everywhere. It's like, okay,
magic.
Like, come on.
I know. Well,
Magic.
and I had talked about how like the telephone game, like a spy could learn something and tell someone else who's going to ride the boat for 2 weeks to tell someone else to get the information to them or whatever. The information can't be that accurate. Every detail correct. That's insane.
I mean, to be fair, with the telephone game comparison, they can write stuff down. They're not like,
no,
remember
they can't
this.
do that. They don't know how to write, Kyle.
Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry. Whoa, man. Don't cancel me.
I'm so embarrassed for you right now.
I kind of wrote, though, along with that, like, I was mad that that's all it took. Like, if Kale had at any point said a better world, then you would have helped. Like, come on.
Well, so I read that as that didn't really have like a sway on her for a while. And that the only reason like her opinion changed is because of the whole like Duva thing. And then, you know, the Kagan, because it was the Kagan that ended up telling Irene, like, whatever you want, like, I'll do for you. And there was another thing too, like, did she only send the message to Hussar? And how would she have known who Hussar is?
Hi, Fleetfoot.
Yeah. No, I agree.
That was very confusing to me too, because it's like she sends a singular message to Hussar. She has to know her name to get it to her, because there's more than one princess under the Kagan. So it's like,
oh, that's true.
I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe she just wrote it to whoever, like how each one of them's in charge of a different thing, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and Hussar was the
that's
oldest of them.
But also, like, whenever you wrote things happening for the plot's sake, it reminded me, I meant to mention earlier, Aelin and Manon appearing on the beach makes no sense to me. Why they would appear there, except
like from
for
the mirror?
Yeah, except for the fact that, like, it's convenient. I don't think there was any real reason for it to be like a
little teleport somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's like, why wouldn't they appear where they, like, on the boat?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very true. I totally agree with that.
Just a little aside that should have been there earlier, but...
Good job, boys. That was a wonderful chapter you did all by yourselves.
Holding it down on 59.
Good practice for the next series.
Yeah, it's all on you guys next time. That's a little sneak peek into what our next series is. Nobody knows. Ooh, it's not been announced yet. Anyways.
I don't even know.
I love that you're talking. You're like telling the most serious stuff over there. And you're like, I'm so mad. I'm calling this lady bad
little
words.
pause.
And you got a little pause coming up the whole time.
I'm in my wolf form.
I appreciate you committing to the bit. Tower of Dawn, chapter 60. These are just two things that I thought were funny from chapter 60. This is them like running up the stairs. They're trying to like get to Hafiza or whatever. This is before they know that she's missing. And so they're kind of flirty and stuff. Kale's talking about how like, wow, his legs can actually go up these stairs and they're going to get tired and stuff. And he looks to Irene and he goes, no wonder those legs of yours are so pretty. And she just like looks over and is like, Cad. I love them.
You rogue.
She's got nice calves.
Yeah, she does.
I know. I'm a fan. And then like they're going by and they notice Hafiza's gone. They run back down to go to, is it Arisha?
Yeah.
Arisha. And they go to her and she says, I saw a nice backside walk past there a moment ago. I was like, okay, girl. Shoot your shot with her, man. You do you.
She could have been talking about Irene.
I was going to say, she could have been talking about Irene.
That's true.
Hey,
you do know it
you know?
looks nice. And That's how like they work together. They've lived together for years, and that's their banter together as friends. I would die. I'd be here
Makes
for that
total
so
sense.
much. She is kind of like that old lady who just kind of says whatever's on her mind type of character. She's kind of what I thought Baba Yellowlegs was going to be way back in the day. Just like that old lady that just pops up every once in a while and says some random wise thing. That is Arisha and Hafiza.
Thought Baba Yellowlegs would be going around going, nice gams, babe.
Yes, that is what I thought.
That's why I got all the mirrors in my house, so I can watch you go a lot of times. Right there.
No, I just thought she would be like that wise old lady who'd pop in and say something weird and kooky that ended up being true later, kind of a character.
Yeah, like how Hafiz is just like trying to get everybody drunk to get information out of them.
Yep.
Exactly. And then she's just like, and here's the dumb info I got. And it's like the most important information we've got in this whole book. Exactly.
That's very classic Disney janitor at a high school.
It's like Scrubs. It's with the janitor guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is just a comment that I had that I was a little confused by when Hafiza is obviously missing and they go to Irene's door and just happen to see the iron key that like unlocks the most important thing in the literal entire continent. She just slides it under the door, no big deal. And I'm like, first of all, when did you have time to do that? But also, is that really the safest place for this key you've been told to guard your entire life with? Like, did Irene even open her door, or did she just like reach under there and grab it? Like, I'm like,
She just reached and grabbed because it was like
I
partially
know.
out.
So then anyone could have gotten it. I
Even the
don't.
janitor. No, I think they said that she slid it under a door because the quote is like she didn't slide it there by accident. She knew something was coming for her. So I think maybe you were picturing her trying to hide it as she was kidnapped, but I'm pretty sure she did it before she was kidnapped because they say she knew it was coming.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe she dropped it, hid it just enough to be seen, and then went up to another room to be kidnapped and sort of set herself up to be found. But
yeah,
still, I
that's
just don't think it
what
was the most safe place for that.
I mean, you're valid on that one. She could have literally handed it to Arisha and be like, Irene's going to come by. Give her this.
I
true.
know.
Yeah, true.
Or at least just like she didn't even have to say like, hey, this is an important thing. She could have just been like, hey, will you hold on to this for me, best friend who I've known for literally my whole life and trust? And she would be like, yeah, sure, I'll hold on to this. She'd probably make a sassy comment because she's Arisha, but like she'd keep on to it instead of just half under a door in the hallway.
Yeah, because that easily could have been something that like, A, not safe, B, unless they're checking under doors, they just run right back downstairs and completely miss it. Nobody ever knows it's there.
And assuming stupid pregnant, not she's stupid, like she's like insanely pregnant. Pregnant Duva.
You're stupid, pregnant.
Climbs up all these stairs, which that's a feat in itself, let alone being super pregnant. She didn't go into labor. Wow. I mean, if you're going to go into labor, at least it's a tower of healers, but still. She goes all the way up there, steals an old lady, goes back down the stairs and doesn't see the key that they just also passed in the hallway. I don't know.
Well, she maybe couldn't see past her belly.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And even if she did, she's not leaning down to get that. Come on.
She just went up all those stairs. No way.
She's like, no.
Not worth it. I don't.
Screw the key. I'm not doing it.
Amazing point. That is 100% what it is.
That's funny. Oh my gosh. So Kale and Irene decide they need to go to the library, and Irene starts like running, and Kale is running, like literally running to keep up with her. And I just put whoa in my notes. Like the fact that he is healed enough to not only go up the stairs, but then run after they've gone up and come down all the stairs was just wild.
He's doing it.
Yeah,
good job,
he's
Kale.
doing the things.
For like 10 minutes until it stops happening again. But at least he got those 10 minutes.
Yes.
The wind in his hair one more time.
Yeah, for real. They get downstairs, chapter 61, and my note was Duva. Damn it, Kyle.
And my only note here was Kyle. Kyle.
And then I had to add Kyle.
Well, to quote Avril Lavigne, could I make it any more obvious? Like, I understand for John and Con, but Lauren, I had so many good points.
I did too. It was just about the wrong person, but mine were
yeah.
also good.
Yeah, you had valid points.
Anyways, that's literally our only notes for chapter
That's it.
61. Let's
whole
go to
chapter.
chapter 62. I am very upset that it is Duva only because Kyle's right and I'm wrong. Ugh, I hate saying that. But the note here is just that, like them realizing, oh my God, it's Duva. Oh my God, Duva's pregnant. And the Vogue had a hold on her. We know now, like at the time reading that exact quote, I did not know, but I know now looking back that she did not turn Vogue until her wedding day when they put her wedding ring on and it was actually a Vogue ring.
Yeah.
So did the Vogue get pregnant with Duva's husband and just living its best life inside of Duva, or was Duva pregnant before they got married?
So I just wrote, she got pregnant after marriage, if I remember correctly, since the like you said, was given to her at marriage, put it on, Vogue possession. So yes, pregnant after, which makes me think, or makes me wonder why the Vogue allowed it, unless it was some sort of thing like with the spiders that were like, oh, to touch a man. Maybe the Vogue princess was like, finally, I could get some sort of thing. I don't think it would care one way or another if its body was pregnant or not. And it doesn't seem like it could even affect the baby. I don't know if that's because it was just like, it's two different souls. I can only contain one at the same time or whatever, but had to have been after marriage.
Yeah, and I figured this was kind of a situation with like where Dorian was born after the king was possessed.
Oh, yeah.
by
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Well, and like, do we get a specific timeline on when her marriage was? Because my thinking was this book is 3 months of time, basically, including the end when they're sailing away. And we don't hear anything about the baby being born, but she is described as obviously pregnant. So there is at least a bump, which means she's got to be in like her second trimester at least.
Yeah, at the beginning of the book, when I think it's in Nezrin's POV, when she first sees Duva, she's like speculates that she was about 6 months along just based on the size of her belly.
When they meet, she was 6 months along?
When they, at the beginning of Tower of Dawn, she was like 6 months.
So she's
So
like
she
about
should
to
be
pop.
having it. Yeah, like real soon.
She's like real pregnant. Yeah.
Especially going up those stairs and down into the library.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Which it does say something about that later, which we can get into in the next chapters. They have a note on.
My note here about like all of that is how much trauma obviously the whole family is going through, but specifically Duva's husband, who actually loves Duva. It wasn't just like an arranged marriage for that. And then to find out that literally their whole marriage has been not with her, including all the times they've been together to make a baby. That's trauma.
Yeah.
They barely knew each other before the marriage, right? Because it was one of those things where it was like a forced marriage. Arranged, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but they were like happy about it.
They were in love.
Yeah.
They were happy about it, but I wonder how long they knew each other beforehand that he would have even gotten hints to that this is like a different person, really.
Yeah. Well, and if she got pregnant right away, I think that said that they just assumed some of that was because of the pregnancy, because like your hormones are all crazy and stuff.
That's fair.
But yeah, but even for her, like that's her first baby and she's missed her entire pregnancy and like and killed her sister, by the way.
Yeah. Like maybe that was maybe I'm wrong. I could easily see that though being one of the things that kept her sane. If the baby was unaffected and just like anyone else possessed by a Vogue, she feels and sees everything happening. Maybe the one thing that kept her connected was still being able to have some sort of physical, like I can feel the baby. I know it's doing well, like that sort of thing.
But she didn't know if it wasn't Vogue until Irene had to say it at the end.
Yeah, I mean, valid, but she at least knew something was in there growing and like could see it, feel it, that sort of thing. The hope of it being okay maybe was one of the things that kept her sane.
Super crazy. But this is Duva monologuing, as all bad guys do in their moment. They should just take action, but instead they monologue and it gives the heroes time to like find a solution. And Duva says, but then I realized, how could you suspect me? She laid a hand on her full womb. It was why he chose her to begin with. Lovely, gentle Duva. And I was like, how could you suspect me? Unless your name is Kyle, because apparently you suspect everything.
Just don't wear rings. That's the main thing.
Because I'm pretty sure she even says like, quote, I don't actually know the quote, but something very similar to like, I didn't go to the party. I thought you would have guessed then. And like literally Kyle's words.
That was
like
yeah.
she didn't go to the party because she's a Vogue and she's staying behind. And like Duva
That was
says
the
that
final straw.
word for word. And I'm like, oh my God, really?
Final
Did you read
straw.
ahead? Because some people
No.
do think we
My
get comments
gosh.
sometimes of people thinking,
Lauren, I hope, would vouch for me that I get so much stress and anxiety just trying to read what we need to. Like literally, sometimes the night before notes, I'm like, dear God, I need to finish this. Like, I gotta catch up to where everyone else is. I'm like the last one putting notes in.
Part of Duva's monologue here is talking about like the Fae and like coming here to this land. She says they breed magic into the land and into its people. Okay. What? Do you need to expand on that for a second, Kyle?
I don't know why I said it. I just heard the word bread and I went with it.
Okay, I'm going to start that quote over. And so it said, and then they bred the magic into the land, into its people. And oh my God. And so my question here, because I highlighted it, knowing that obviously Irene is Silba's heir and has like a ton of magic compared to others, or at least was like super skilled at it and stuff. But is Irene maybe part Fae? Is that a thing? Like all the healers, are they technically part Fae in some sense? Even if it's like, you know, way down the line that you can't even say it's
where you can only claim it for like college tuition sort of thing.
Yeah. Which is why they go to the Torch Esme to go to college.
Yeah, my great grandmother went here, so I'm actually a legacy.
Exactly. That's the answer I wanted. Thanks, Kyle.
Oh my gosh. I guess I never really thought about it that way. I mean, like with Dorian, he has magic, but he's not Fae. But like, I guess
it's because Elena gave up that heritage to be with Galen, and that's what like put it in there. Right. And so she turned herself not Fae. I don't know how you do that, but that's what she did.
Also, in the sense of like, since all these people from other worlds came into this world, and all these people from other worlds ostensibly have powers that don't belong in this world, would some of these powers have been bred from those people having families? Or like, how far back does magic go in this world? Because I feel like you're digging into something that we just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. I just thought I'd put it out there as a question, and maybe somebody would be like, yeah, they explained that in this book. And I'll be like, oh, I forgot.
How embarrassing for you to not know that.
Did you read the book?
God. Oh my God. Moving on. Duva, in the end of her monologue, says, because you are so much more useful to Erewhon alive, Irene Towers, and then later calls her the one the Dark King covets. And so we don't really get like an answer to that. Like King of Outerland tried to kill all the healers. I guess, at least I took that as, and the confirmation we have so far in the book is that they were killed because the healers can like heal the Vogue or whatever, because it's a parasite and an infection or whatever. But then King of Otterland was killing all of the people because he was trying to save them from Erewhon. So why would the King of Otterland trying to save people kill the healers first? Unless Erewhon can use them for something more evil, right? That's what I'm getting at. And so like he wants her alive and he wants to like use her for something. And the King of Otterland was trying to protect them by killing them. Not a great way to go about it, but that was his attempt.
Wasn't his attempt at protection though the getting rid of magic? And I thought the killing the healers was like, now he's doing the bidding of the Dark King.
Yeah, see, I took him killing them at the time. I don't think we knew that the King of Otterland was a good guy. I don't know that he was, but like attempting to make good choices, even though he was a Vogue. But now knowing that information and his motives behind killing the healers first makes me think that he was trying to protect them first. And that was his big priority, even though it sounds like they're the ones who could heal them.
Yeah, I guess that doesn't make sense. I thought it was a way to keep people from, I guess, realizing that healers could like
heal the Vogue,
perform an exorcism. Yeah, but
that is what it is.
But he was also looking for people with magic for the Volg to possess, because I guess it was easier for that to happen if they already had magic in their veins or something. So I don't know if that's why, like, because Irene specifically, if she is like Silba's heir or whatever, she's so much more powerful. She got to the top so quickly. She's God's blessed, whatever. I don't know if, like, if he knows that about her. Yeah, she is. If he knows that about her, I don't know if he thinks that he could, like, use her in some way, with kind of in the same way he was wanting to with the witches. I don't know.
Yeah.
When they said that the one my Dark King covets, I just wrote, obviously she's hot and he wants her, which is understandable.
Yeah. Can't blame a guy for trying.
Hey, every king needs a queen.
I like that take on it. That's his motivation the whole time, is to just get the girl.
He saw the future too. He's like, oh, there's going to be a hot healer someday. I have to have her.
I say that, but that is kind of honestly how it started, is that one of the kings just wanted to get the girl, which was Maeve. And then here we are. So,
boo.
Yeah. All that to be said in this moment is that we don't really get an answer to why Erewhon wants her alive or why he covets her. And I would assume that's going to be some plot point in the next book for her or for all the healers, that they're literally taking 2 Morath, assumedly, to this fight and just being like, hi, here we are. Feel free to take us. And so we'll just see how that goes. And then at the very end of this chapter, Irene is running away. And Duva starts to like blast her magic at her. Kale hurled himself between her and the princess. No shield, no weapon, only his back, utterly exposed, as he shoved Irene out of the way and took the full brunt of the Volg attack. Dude, we literally just read a whole book to get away from this moment. And then we just right back at it. So...
Yeah, which leads us into chapter 63. This line just wrecked me, where it says that dark power slammed into his spine again. Something cracked again. The feeling in his legs vanished first. Stop, Irene sobbed on her knees. Stop. Kale's spine gone. All that work shattered. And I didn't, this wasn't a cry counter mark for me, but it was very close. This was like so devastating to read after literally 62 chapters of him being healed.
And to just come from him like running around and like living his best life and all the things. And
getting
that
some.
That's what I said, living his best life. And then it just got taken away.
I had a lighter note here about Duva saying this body does not so much like running. And then like the next thing she does is hit Irene. I think it's like too strong for someone her size. She was too strong. I was like, I love that the Volg increased her strength, but still can't handle a run due to a baby belly. Like just throwing people across the room, then this being like,
waddling to the next target.
Waddling around.
Yeah, like not threatening at all. Get back here.
I highlighted that line too, and I was like, same. My body doesn't like so much running either.
But we had read so many times of Kale saying like he would literally crawl to her and beg her and all the things about like wanting her to love him and all the things that were happening. Duva doesn't stop just because Kale's on the ground. She's still attacking, and Irene is still running and trying to stay safe. And they finally like get back to a point where they can see Kale, and it said Kale had crawled halfway across the path, crawled trailing blood, his legs unresponsive, to try and help her. He literally crawled. Oh, I just love him and I love them. I appreciate that he's like showing that he's at least worth a little bit for her, because she's worth everything. She's literally it and a bag of chips.
Everything.
Love her. She's all the things. And so I'm glad that he's like doing something where I'm like, yes, Kale, you deserve that girl. Because Kale's not always been that guy. So.
True.
So we get this whole moment and Duva's like finally knocked out and whatever. And of all people to show up in the bottom of the wherever we are under the library for them to just be like, oh yeah, it's Nezrin. And I was like, what? Do I need to read that again? There was like no build up to this moment. It's just like this big epic battle. And then all of a sudden, Nezrin and Sartek are there, like no big deal. I'm like, all right. I mean, I'll accept it. I'm glad they're here and I'm glad they're going to have help. But it just felt really random to me. Of all the people in this whole entire town, it could have been Shen. It could have been more of the healers. Obviously, they show up in a little bit. It could have been the librarian lady. It could have been like so many. It could have been like the Kagan himself. I don't know why Nezrin threw me off.
I mean, they told him to like hurry back, that there was some kind of emergency.
I get that, but like I don't know. We read that, and then the next time we see them is here. So like I
Yeah.
guess it's been a couple days. Just last time we got this whole like epic flying there adventure. So I guess it
Yeah.
just surprised me, but
He
that's
traveled
okay.
by map this time.
Yeah, it just appeared.
And then, holy God's watch, Silba literally speaks through Hafiza. And in chapter 64, Arisha confirms that everyone heard it, unlike when the gods just appeared to Elena and Gavin couldn't hear anything they said. Silba basically possessed Hafiza in this moment and just spoke through her, which is crazy. And I also almost cried at all of the healers in the Torah, like coming together and putting hands on shoulders and like forming this whole chain of healing to help Kale.
This whole like part with Silba is very similar to like the Deanna part with Aelin earlier, because I'm pretty sure everyone could just hear Deanna too in that whole conversation. So assumedly Silba is one of these gods that are also needing to go somewhere else. There's just so many gods here in Antica that I don't know which ones are those gods and which ones are these other gods, or if they just have different names, but they're the same gods.
I hope we get closure on all that. Like at the end of the series, if it all goes well and the people are sent back to wherever they came from, I hope we get closure on people being like, oh, the gods are gone. And like having some sort of explanation for what that is like.
I think Silba is one of the 12 gods mentioned. I think one of the Aurelia gods that kind of carried over into Antica, because there are a few that I think just have different names in Antica, like Tahome, I think is the sea god. She just is referred to as something else on the southern continent.
And then you were talking about, obviously, like with Silba or whatever in that whole moment, when the other voice, which was Silba, was talking to her and said, like, you will offer this of your own free will. And then Irene says, yes, with my entire heart. It had been his from the start anyway. I cried. I was crying here. I thought he was about to die. And I was like, they're going to kill Kale. Because like I said earlier, like I was expecting someone to die at the end of these books. And like nobody died at the end of Era of Fire. Or Era of Fire, wow. Nobody died at the end of Empire Storm. So I was like, somebody's going to die in Tower of Dawn. Oh my God, Kale's going to die. After all this time, Kale's going to die. And I was freaking out. And then for her to say that and just like, I don't know, their love and everything. And I was crying. But then to go with your comment about all of the healers and stuff, I had written that down too, that like it had been like Hafiz on her shoulder and Arisha on hers. And then it was just like hand after shoulder. And it was just all of them, young, old, every single person that had been there, all the healers that had gathered around her. And just, that's also just shows like their love for her as much as just like being good people and healers and everything else, is that they show up for her. And I just love this for Irene, and she's just the best. And I also just appreciated that we get the knowledge that even his scar on his face is healed, which I think is just some final healing and some final letting go of past Kale issues and drama that needed to just be released. And I appreciate that visual that his drama with Aelin and Selena and all the things that have happened in the past, old Kale. But that takes us into chapter 64. And I think it was Nezrin who said we got a little bit lost down here, but then the cats led the way, and they like look over and all the cats are just like chilling on the ground. And then they're like, you're looking at us? And then they run away. But I wrote cat God watch, God cat watch. Like, is that what's happening here? I'm supposed to like start paying attention to it now that the book is over.
I know. I wish we got more of like what the heck that even means.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Then I had to highlight this whole part about how Kale is now dependent on Irene for survival / continued healing. And my note was, damn it, Kyle. But I do think this like life bond between them is really cool. And I love that it wasn't just because she couldn't heal his old injury. It was Kale sacrificing that to save her life, and then Irene choosing to bond her life to his in order to save him. I think that whole dynamic of it is really cool. The premise of them choosing each other. And then he says, it is no burden, Irene, to be given this. It is no burden at all. I love it.
I know. Well, and he continues with, and using the chair is not a punishment. It is not a prison. It never was. And I'm as much of a man in that chair or with that cane as I am standing on my feet. And I was like, oh, look at you, Kale. Full circle moment for him. He's made it, friends. But then Irene says, in like her POV, it said this bond between them, she could feel it almost like a living band of cool silken light flowing from her into him. I highlighted it and commented, mates? Are they mates? Is that their mating bond? Even if I know they're human and they don't technically maybe get those, at least we haven't seen that in other SJM books, that humans like It's usually once they're Fae or whatever. But I say this is counts. This is a bond that connects them. And if it severs, then like literally they both die because one like lives, then they die. And I don't know. They're connected forever. They're mates.
Kayla Nezrin got the italics this chapter, though, so that's your whole argument for mates.
But it did say as if to say, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, and that's your whole argument, Kyle. How embarrassing for you to bring that up. How embarrassing.
Trying to get me with my own joke. Get your own material.
Never. Chapter 65.
Oh my gosh. I just had a quick note at the beginning of this chapter where like all this stuff is happening, all the siblings are showing up, like everyone's coming in to see what's going on. And I literally stopped and wrote, "Where is the Coggin's wife?" But then like 2 paragraphs later, she bursts in the room and I was like, "Oh,
My wife."
For real though, I was skeptical the whole time because she just like wasn't there. But she really is just kind of giving Georgiana, King of Otterland's wife, just because she also was just kind of never there.
Queen Georgina."
I mean, if I lived in a family that was free to kill each other to get the throne, I'd play it cool. Like, I wouldn't ruffle any feathers.
That's valid. And then this is just an interesting visual on what a Vogue looks like because we haven't seen that so far, but it said smoke swirled and coiled about it, revealing glimpses of gangly limbs and talons, mostly hairless gray, slick skin, and unnaturally large dark eyes that raged as she looked upon it. Truly looked upon it. It hissed, revealing pointed fish-sharp teeth. "Your world shall fall as the others have done, as all the others will." The demon dug its claws deeper into the darkness. Duva screamed, and Irene said, "Pathetic." First of all, epic. Amazing response. Freaking love you. You're the best. Please marry me. But also, it's really interesting, this whole part of like, as the others have done and all the others, like your world shall fall as all the others have done and as others will. Like, I thought that they just accidentally stumbled upon here because Maeve was bored and decided to go visit another planet and they all just like hopped over too. But this sounds like they're like conquering worlds and that's their whole goal, is to like travel around and do that. So that, I don't know, freaks me out as another layer of things potentially.
It's interesting too, because like whenever May found it, didn't she come to this world because it was different? Like she was tired of being in the other world or whatever.
I think so.
And it was like, oh, it's just a different world. So I wonder if she's of the same mindset where she's like wants the whole world to herself. Or maybe she just doesn't want the world made into all the other ones that she potentially has been to. If she was brought in through that conquering of other worlds, maybe she'll end up being on the whole like, I also don't want my hubby here, but I don't want you here either. And, you know.
My hubby.
Hadn't they referred to Maeve at some point as like a world walker or something where like because she had the keys, she was able to just open gates and like stroll
like she
on
found
through.
a way to do it.
Yeah. So I guess it never really confirmed how many times that happened before she found this world.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Or how many she had been even before. Because I mean, is she the only one that can do that?
Right.
I don't know, but that's freaky for the worlds that exist inside of this universe, I guess. So the Vogue princess said, it laughed. "No prince am I, girl, but a princess, and my sister soon shall find you." And I just kind of like highlighted that, like, what? Because like literally last episode, we were like, of course there's a queen. Why didn't we think of that? Like, why are they all princes and kings? And I guess she's the only one, or maybe they're rare, and like had this whole speculation about the ladies in the Vogue. And now apparently here's one just chilling. And Erewhon is the one who sent it here. So like he's aware of those and controlling those. I don't know if that changes things or if it doesn't matter. I don't know. It just felt like a big deal that Maeve was a queen and like was a girl Vogue or whatever, and that nobody knew that was a thing. Like even Brandon didn't suspect it. So it's just.
Did they say too whether like these princes and princesses are like actual descendants of Erewhon or the others, or are they just like that's their title? Yeah, like almost like a military rank over a familial rank.
I don't know.
I just couldn't remember if they said like, oh yeah, they're all Erewhons.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Like his kids or whatever?
Yeah. Little kiddos.
There's little Timmy over there. He took over.
I couldn't get Antica, Dad. Oh, champ. That's all right.
You gave it your best shot.
Yeah. I can't be mad at you for being you, you know?
I hope Erewhon's that good of a dad.
Ruffles her hair.
Uh-huh. Okay. This is a part that I was talking about with Kyle, and it just made me kind of gross, but it said earlier in the chapter, as Irene heals Duva, just as Duva heaved and vomited over the edge of the couch, it splattered Irene's knees, reeking to the deepest hell. And Irene, being like all healer and stuff, like inspects the vomit, makes sure it's normal and everything's fine and whatever. We move on. Ew, Kyle. But basically, that's what she does. And everything's fine and normal. They check the baby. Baby's great. Everything's wonderful. And she turns around to find Kale in a wheelchair again because she had used all her magic. All of this happens longer in the chapter. And then it said, only awe and such adoration, it snatched her breath away. Irene settled in his lap and he looped his arms around her as she kissed his cheek. And I was like, ew, she's got vomit all over her legs. Why are you letting her sit in your lap? Like, that's disgusting. I get it. She just saved a life. That was cool and stuff. But like, let her clean up first. I just, it made that whole moment not cute for me.
I mean, to be fair, he can't really move out of her way, so.
He can. His arms still work with the wheels. He's no less a man because he's in that chair, Kyle.
I didn't say he was. I wouldn't move out of the way. The vomit's on her knees. That's on the upside of the lap. She's not touching me with it. Sit on down, baby.
Giddy up.
Cheers.
Saddle up.
I'm Kyle Westfall. Okay. And then that the Coggin finally just says, like, anything you desire, ask it and it's yours. And then she says, a favor. Great Coggin. I would ask you a favor. And I just love that it's like Irene making this deal. Like, as much as Kale has been all like, he has to have the solution and it's all on him, and no, you can't help me, Nezrin, because I'm doing it myself, and here's my dumb solution to, you know, sneak in to see him in the viziers and like all the stuff that's failed, and then just to get here and it's Irene doing it, and Kale just lets her have it, and he's just sitting there and like letting her go off and be awesome because she's just the best, and I love that for her. Then we get back to this weird double date in Nezrin and Kale's room with their new lovers, Sartak and Irene. Sartak reveals that Kadja this whole time was working for him. And I'm so upset because I was convinced Kadja was working for Erewhon as a Vogue. And I'm upset that it's not the truth. I'm happy, I guess, that Kadja's alive. Sure, great for her. But then Kale gives this like little comment that like Shen would be like all about her, and like Kadja and Shen, and like they could be besties and live their best life together. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I'm all for couples and romance, so if that makes them happy. I don't trust Kadja still, even though it's deep rooted in my soul, and I just love Shen so much. So
You need your Shen Kaja novella.
yes, I need their little side story.
Shaja.
Yes.
Shaja.
We find out obviously that there's 1,000 rooks on the ceiling or the roof or wherever they are.
On the ceiling, hanging like bats.
There's 1,000 rooks on the roof or wherever they are being stored right now while they're there to like go fly to the north, which is awesome. They were talking about how they could bring all these healers and like heal all of the sick people with the Vogue, but how do we like get them down first so the healer can get in there? And Irene has this really cool plan about like Aelin smoke and using that and stuff, but like we just found out that Aelin isn't there, and that's going to be an epic failure of a plan. So I'm nervous for them on that front, and I have no idea how they plan to do that once they find out that information.
Yeah.
So that will be one to figure out in the next book.
Yep. And then Hussar is offering to aid in the war, and she's talking to Irene, and she says, because for my sisters, both living and dead, I will march with my Sulde to the gates of Morath and make that demon bastard pay. And for you, Irene Towers, for what you did for Duva, I will help you save your land. This is just so on brand for Hussar. She's like, I can kill my own siblings for sport, but if anyone else tries to, they're dead meat.
Classic older sister.
That just made me laugh. I'm like, this is like touching, I guess, but also it's just funny to me that she's like, she would have killed her siblings, but now she's like, because they tried to kill my siblings.
Basically what they all did, except for
Yeah.
Sartak. But takes us into chapter 66. The very first sentence was, Nezrin was utterly drained, wanting to sleep for a week. A month. And I just highlighted it and said, same girl. Preach. Let's all take a month-long nap.
Sounds great.
Sounds like the dream. And then we get this little 3 paragraphs about how she gets her own little rook.
Yeah.
And is it Sulky? Is that how we say it?
Sulky, yeah.
It's so cute. And I'm really
Yeah.
upset we don't get to be there for it. It's like another off-screen wedding. And I didn't get to be invited to the story. But I'm very glad that she got one. And that's so cute. And John said it in his chapter recap about like Kadara and Sulky being there and hanging out with all the kids and stuff on the side. It's so cute. Loved it. Loved it for them. And I'm just really glad that Nezrin's family is okay. That was like her whole trauma basically for the whole first half of the book and just like not knowing where they were. So very happy that that worked out for Nezrin's and Nezrin's family. So
that part was so sweet. And then, oh my gosh, Sartak comes and is talking to Nezrin with, you know, their whole family gawking at him and stuff from down the street. But he's telling her about his conversation with the Kagan, and she says, I hope you told him that the fate of the world might depend upon it, like upon him helping. And Sartak chuckled and said, I did, but I also told him that the woman I love now plans to head to war, and I intend to follow her. And then okay, I am squealing at this part. This is like, I know I wasn't fully on board with this whole profession of love, although I do think that one is probably more valid than some of the other ones in Sarah J. Maas books, just because he did know so much about her before he met her. But anyway, I loved this part, and I was totally fangirling over this whole interaction.
Yeah, it was super cute. We also find out Sartak is heir. Like, is the named heir, which usually doesn't happen until the guy's about to die.
Right.
But then we finally get some kissing out of these two, which I've been wanting since like the literal moment they saw a spider. They should have been making out with each other. But very glad
That's the moment you choose.
They finally got
You see a spider, you get in the mood.
Once they got home, at least.
It describes the kiss, of course.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it
And
does.
in typical Sarah fashion, it was tentative and soft and full of wonder, that kiss. He tasted like the wind, a mountain spring. He tasted like home. And I'm on Candle Watch.
Oh!
First of all, I'm on Candle Watch, A Taste of Sartak. And also, for the description again. And I think I'm catching on to a formula. And I'll remind you what the taste of Dorian Candle was. Tasted like the sea, like winter morning, something as foreign and yet familiar. Back to my formula, I think it's you take an element or a geographical marker plus a time and or a place, comma, plus an ideal.
Okay.
So
I'm with you.
So let's try something. So give me an element or a geographical marker, anything you can think of. And I mean like how it uses like
The sea
you know,
or
like a mountain or the sea.
Sure.
Or like
A roaring river.
a roaring river. Very good. So we have a roaring river. Kyle, a time and or a place.
A bright future.
Bright future. That might be, I might put
That's a
that in the
time.
place of an ideal.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Okay.
that feels like an
Okay.
ideal.
But
Yeah,
what do we got
place.
for
Time or place? Old country.
old country? Okay, so what do we have again?
Roaring river. Old country.
Roaring river in the middle of...
It tasted like a roaring river. A roaring river through, an old roaring river through an old country with visions of a bright future.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it. I'm pretty sure
see
you
that.
just said a roaring river as many times as Sarah wrote "Nameless
you
is
know.
my price" in that chapter a while back.
Anyway, it was a rough.
I get it.
It was a
I'm
rough
with you.
I
draft.
get where you're
I'm
coming
with you.
from.
I'm with you.
Anyway, onward to chapter 67.
Chapter 67, they have finally gotten on a boat. They are going away from Antica. They are on their way to Terracin, I believe. And it says, a wind from inland, as if all 36 gods of Antica blew a collective breath to send them skittering home. I guess God's watch. And I just feel like I need to know if all 36 of these gods are actually just the 12 gods under like different names or different, like Kyle had said another time that like all the different people from different countries came.
Right.
And each of them had different names for these gods, but technically they could all still be the 12 gods. They've just come from different places under new names. Or are there actual other gods? Or are there no gods in this world and they're all just weird ghost people that play with the real people like they're toys? I don't know, but you just get like a sentence like this and it's blowing my brain.
I'll make a chart.
Oh, a chart would be helpful. Yes.
Okay.
The 12 and the 36 from here.
Yeah. I mean, we only get a mention of like 3 of the 36 from Antica, and they could technically be part of the 12, but
Right.
I'll get on it. I'll make a chart and we'll figure it
you.
out. Chapter 68, the last chapter of Tower of Dawn.
What?
I highlighted this entire chapter, so I'm just gonna say that I freaking love Happy Kale with Irene, and I'm so happy for them I could cry. That's it.
I wrote another freaking wedding without me? Are we serious? Oh, I was livid, especially for Kale. Don't get me wrong. Love Aelin, love Rowan, but freaking Kale's my boy, and we're gonna get married without me? Oh, I'm so mad. But we get like that there's twin rings now gracing both of their hands, and he calls her Lady Westfall, which I think is so freaking cute. And then it said, but Kale had never heard anything finer other than the vows they'd spoken in Silba's temple at the Torre 2.5 weeks ago. Freaking 2.5 weeks, and I didn't even know. Oh my gosh, I'm livid. Livid. I need to be at these weddings. They were talking about all the healers that were coming with them and all the like millions of boats that are coming with them and all the things. And Hassar is one of them leading all the things. It just said, Gods help him when Hassar and Adian meet. And I was like, well, okay, maybe this is foreshadowing. Adian just effed it up with Lysandra. Maybe Adian gets the ugly girl.
As he should, honestly.
I know that Hassar is into women. She's got a partner. But
Yeah, is Renya coming?
I don't know. But like, why would they put this sentence of all the
Oh my
people? I
gosh.
just feel like
Well, they're both so like blunt and hot-headed. I feel like that would be a hot
Hmm.
mess.
They effed it up with each other, so don't put all the blame on him simply because he was the reactionary.
Mm-mm.
she didn't make a good choice, but he's the one that effed up the specific relationship.
Is he though?
And like every other relationship he has. So-
He reacted to and probably ended officially the relationship that was already messed up due to the secrecy held by Aelin and Lysandra, sure. But that relationship was doomed from the start if that's how it began.
Well, it like wasn't even really fully a relationship. He was still waiting for her to like open up to him, and
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, yeah.
He can just have Hassar. Let's just move on with that.
They deserve each other.
I also cannot believe we get paragraphs and paragraphs about this freaking gold couch that Kale's like weirdly attached to.
Yeah.
And that he literally brings with him, even though the like cushions
In
are wrecked.
shreds. Yeah.
I know. If it's like every time he sits on a couch, it's like, but not as good as the gold couch. Had to sit on that poor excuse of a replacement couch. And then he freaking brings it with them. I literally laughed out loud. That is so ridiculous and such a Kale thing, I feel like, to do. I did like the part where he said he would build her a house around the gold couch or whatever it was. Cute. He better do that in the future. And then he like brings his horse with him. Him and Irene both get to bring their fancy horses with them. And I just really like the part where it said he had told the princess that she could keep Hella's horse, but there was something to be said about the prospect of charging down Morath foot soldiers atop a horse named Butterfly. So he took the horse with him, and I just think that's hilarious. And then just like keeping track of the armies that are happening, we have 300 healers, 1,000 Coggin ships, and that's only half of them. And then we have the
Ooh.
1,000 Rooks that are flying over them. So Kale, like, well, really Irene, they both
Yes.
just absolutely crushed it, did their job,
Mhm.
and going to go join the army that Aelin weirdly gathered for her people. So I don't know. There's hope is what I guess this is, because there was a time specifically when Erewhon like weirdly showed up in that guy's chest of the like guy from Endovir, and they were in the Brennan's temple. And I was like, they're screwed. Like, there's no way they're doing this. Like, I had zero hope for them in this future. So I'm excited to see that there's actually people coming together and like it's maybe gonna happen, and hopefully we're okay. I don't know. And then this finding out of like Irene showing Aelin's note to Kale. I'm really surprised he didn't say anything to her
I was
like
too.
that. I don't know. I feel like I'm weird about it.
This is the one time that I feel like I'm fine with them not telling the other person something, because I understand why. In his mind, Aelin is fine. They're going to go see her right now.
Yeah.
And I feel like he feels it would be so much more fun to reveal it to her that way and be like, surprise, it was her the whole time. And like there was a long connection. And because to him, he doesn't know that them meeting is further off than just getting off of a boat.
Sure. Yeah.
That's fair.
I liked the way he said that. Like, he talked her out of getting rid of it because she was like, I guess I don't need this anymore. And he was like, you should hang on to that. I think there's somebody that's going to want to see it.
Yeah, it is cute. And like just him thinking about the two of them together and like that revelation for him, and just said that there was a moment of kindness from a young woman who ended lives to another young woman who saved them. I was like, I love that. I like the visuals there, and I could see how those two could be one of the solutions to like how to end this whole thing. Like, obviously we know one of the solutions could be Aelin or Dorian, like actually sacrificing their whole life for everything, but I feel like there just has to be some other way around it, and I think it has to do with the healers, and so maybe that's like that line kind of bringing it together. But
I love it.
I don't know, but that's the end of Tower of Dawn. We do get this little epilogue moment. It's called Fireheart, and it switches back to Aelin's POV. And it just said that she's in a coffin built by an ancient queen to trap the sun inside, and that the doors open and she sees someone looking at her, watching with a spider's smile. Ugh. Of course, we have to bring the spiders up one more time. But also, I'm convinced that Maeve is going to turn into a spider. And I kind of said that from the beginning, that maybe that was like her other form, and not that we know that all the Volk take other forms. That was when I thought she was Fae. But there's just something obviously connecting her to all the spiders, and that keeps being said about her. So maybe that's a thing. I hope not, because I don't want to see a giant spider, but you know. Anyways, that's the end. We did it.
Yeah. Let's get into thoughts and theories for the final book in the series. What do we got? Kyle, you're up first.
What a ride is all I can say. We had our ups, Tower of Dawn. We had our downs, Empire Storms. But we made it through. My thoughts are Tower of Dawn is better. I don't see how people even have that flipped. Like, and I definitely don't see how people could skip it altogether, like we talked about earlier, which I mean, we found out later she didn't. But I was like, oh my gosh. Lauren kind of said earlier she was expecting a death. And because there wasn't one, I feel like we have a big one coming. At least 13, am I right? If not over that. I'm interested to see what Maeve does with Aelin.
Are you talking about the 13? Like their death?
I don't know. That's just a number I picked. That could involve them, could not. Maybe more than them. I really am stuck on the whole yielding thing. They wouldn't mention that so much if at least one of them didn't yield. Otherwise, that's pointless to have in a book. Anyway.
Sure.
Interested to see what Maeve does with Aelin. Obviously, she has a use for her. Otherwise, she'd already be dead. I kind of wonder if she's going to try to warp her mind, since we just learned that she could do that. And I thought it'd be an interesting trick for Dorian to learn, because he could do any magic. So maybe he can learn to do the same thing Maeve does to save someone who Maeve has done it too, or maybe another way to save people from the Vogue by twisting the minds of whatever. I'd be willing to bet a lot of bickering between Lysandion and Alorcan is coming our way, and a lot of territorial Fae bastard stuff from Rowan, which rightly so for once. I feel like this time it is deserved. He's, not just reacting to someone making a light comment in jest. And maybe some bedtime rituals from Minorian. See what they do on their nights out.
Ew.
I still think, as I said from the start, Irene kills Erewhon. That's my big one. I think she's the end, like the end piece of it all. Whatever, final strike. And Abby, a listener of ours, will win the lottery is another prediction of mine.
He was asked to make that prediction in the comments.
Nice.
Congratulations, Abby.
Woo!
That's amazing.
Please join our Patreon after you win. Okay, thoughts and theories. Holy cow. I just can't believe we're done with the tandem read at all. Like, that's just crazy. I feel like some part of me feels like we just started, and another part of me feels like we've lived here for 10 years.
Yep.
But we made it to the end. So there's that. I am a little sad that the party is separating, like right before Kale and them get back. Like, we literally just came together at the end of Empire Storms, and then Kale was like going to come in too, and then now they're like splitting to go save Aelin over in, I would assume, Dornell, and the rest of them are going to Terrasen to like rally before going to Morath. So a little sad that they're separating. I just want everyone to be in one place. I think Fenris is going to have some sort of like epic, I use the word betrayal only because I don't know what other word to use, against Maeve. So like maybe he actually breaks the blood oath, or maybe he works around it enough that he helps save the day. I just feel like he was left there for some reason other than just her being a douche. So that's my guess. And then he will help her get Aelin back. And when Aelin gets back, assuming that she does, she's going to be super wrecked. Like super wrecked.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just goes back into my feelings about Dorian being the one who will be ready for that moment instead of Aelin, because Aelin was ready at a certain point.
Oh.
And now she won't be, because she's going to be like coming back like she was out of Endovier type of a moment.
Yeah.
And so Dorian is living his best life right now. He's got the lady, he's got the keys, he's going on an adventure and all this stuff, and he's doing all the things. So maybe he'll be the one that's ready at that point. I don't know if that's the case, but that's something I guess I'm predicting. I was telling Kyle, and I guess I said it a little bit earlier too, I was expecting someone to die during the end of any of these books, but nobody did. And that really freaks me out. For a minute, I thought it would be a lead, because a lead was like on the sand with Maeve, and I thought she was going to be the one that died. And then for a second, I thought it would be Rowan, because Maeve was talking about like taking Aelin's love away and like ruining all of that for them, like in her whole little monologue moment. But obviously, like, she took Aelin before Rowan showed up, but I thought like that was leading up to maybe Rowan dying, which would have been crazy, but still. And then obviously I thought it would be Kale when Kale got attacked and like literally died, and then they brought him back. All of this to say is that I think a lot of people are going to maybe die in the next book, or at least somebody super important is going to. Like, I just feel like a book doesn't end all happy. And another reason I say that is because I am like a booksta girly, and I'm on the internet and all the things, and nobody talks about Kingdom of Ash like it was happy. Everyone talks about Kingdom of Ash like their life is wrecked, and they're like, we're praying for you when they post that they're about to read it, and like you're gonna be okay. Like, it's like it's a good thing you're about to be tortured, it's fine. And everyone's crying, literal posts of them crying in videos and all the things. And so either I'm going into this and we're about to be super happy, everything will be great, and I'm crying tears of joy, and that's why it's going to be okay, or everyone's sad and dying and horrible things, and I'm going to be emotionally scarred for forever. So I have a feeling it's going to be that one, knowing myself. But
if it helps, my first read of Kingdom of Ash, I cried 6 times, but 3 of those 6 times were happy tears.
Oh, okay. So like 50-50.
So maybe 50-50. I don't know.
Okay. Well, if we're looking at how I've cried, 2/3, like you've cried 7 times, I've cried 21, not counting this episode. I'm going to cry like
probably a lot.
21 more times. If you've already cried 6 in that episode, and it's taken you, or in that one book, but it's taken you 7 for this whole series. So sweet. Speaking of crying, that does take us to the official cry counter. I am adding 3 from this reading. 1 for when Rowan was trying to find Aelin and was like, where's my wife? My wife. 1 for Lysandra's fate. And then 1 when Irene was giving up like part of herself for Kale. So that brings me to 24. 24 cries.
And I had one in this chapter section for Lysandra's fate, but it was like kind of rolled in with Aelin being taken away from Rowan, because I was crying there mostly for her whole little monologue about Rowan, but then also knowing what was coming with Lysandra. So it was really just one, but now I'm up to 8.
Kyle, did you cry?
No, I'm still at the half.
John?
No cries.
Wow.
All right. Well,
Okay.
this is the end of these 2 books. And so we usually give our star rating. And one of my favorite things is to hear your guys' star ratings, your original star rating. Then this is your reread. So did you change it?
So I initially just gave the tandem read as a whole a 5 out of 5 the first time. I would say that I'd knock it down to, I want to say, a 4 out of 5.
For as a whole?
As a collective?
As a whole.
Okay.
Yeah, as a whole.
We made it worse for you.
No.
Sorry, John.
So I was looking at like what I wrote. I just said the pacing of Tower of Dawn is a little slower. Empire of Storms is so staggering. I was pretty general in my review. It was spoiler free, so I was like very vague. Yeah, I would say a 4. I didn't feel like as into it this time around as I was even with Queen of Shadows. I felt way more invested in Queen of Shadows, and maybe it was just the back and forth of the 2 books. So I expect to kind of return to that when we get back to Kingdom of Ash.
I was 5 stars on both books on my first read, and I'm keeping it for this read.
Sure. Purely
Fair
on
enough.
vibes.
Yep.
I really struggled with this rating because I had like gone back and forth because of the spiders specifically in Tower of Dawn. But when I ended the book, both of the books, I was like, oh, 5 stars. Oh, so good. And so that is what I put officially at the end of the read into GoodReads. And that's, the official one when it gets into GoodReads. When I sit here and think about it, I don't know. I don't know that they're like, maybe if I like pulled up all my 5-star reads, I don't know that I would have maybe kept them there. I think I just did it purely on vibes, but I'm not usually the person that does halves. So it would end up going down to 4 stars. But for now, they are both 5 stars. I enjoyed them. Even the spider parts, as much as I really, really hated them, I still had some sort of epic emotional response to it, which is what you want out of a read. And like that's part of the whole process. If it was, you had no emotions, good, bad, or in between, then it would be a boring book. So I take that, even though I hated it, as an emotion that happened. And so I still gave it 5 stars. So, and now the one that's probably going to floor us all, Kyle. How many stars?
No, I won't at this point. I mean, you're used to it. Empire of Storms came out to be a 3.6. And then Tower of Dawn came out to be a 4.4.
What?
We got a more than 4 stars
Wild.
book from Kyle.
I know.
4.4. That's like pretty high over 4.
It was. I was surprised.
Wow.
Is it because you're dressed like Kale?
Yeah, the spirit of Kale really guided me on that one. No, I just think I liked the character development in Tower of Dawn more than I did Empire of Storms. Really, because I didn't feel like there was much character development in Empire of Storms aside from the side stories, which we didn't get enough of, like Elide and Lorcan and that sort of thing. By the time everyone was all together, there really was no character development except for that last little fight, which I can't. I mean, it was there, sure, but it wasn't much of it. But like Aelin stayed the same pretty much the whole time, that sort of thing. And then I actually liked the pacing of Tower of Dawn better. Maybe for the same reason John said, but opposite effect on me is that Empire Storms was so back and forth and staggering that Tower of Dawn seemed to be more straightforward. And it was like, told you how long things took and like, oh, they're gone for this amount of time. And oh, they're gone for this amount of time. And it made sense. And they didn't waste time with stuff that was like filler space or whatever.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm so proud of you, Kyle.
Big day. That's amazing. Okay, well, that's a wrap on episode 24 and the entire tandem read. We have a quick little bonus episode coming up next that will cover the last 2 bonus chapters of the Throne of Glass series. There are 6 in total. We covered 4 of them in a bonus episode a few months ago, and then we will be covering the last 2 now. After that, you can join us next week as we start our Kingdom of Ash coverage with chapters 1 through 13. We are slowing our pace a little bit for Kingdom of Ash since it is the final book in the series and we will have so much to discuss each week. Check out our pinned schedule on Instagram to follow along.
And you can now rep your favorite podcast with some new merch on our website at betweenpagesandfriends.com, linked in the show notes or description box below. While you're there, go on and sign up for our monthly newsletter and check out our Patreon for a community of amazing book aficionados. Until next time, stay wordy, stay nerdy, don't stress, and stay blessed.
Bye.
Happy Halloween.
Farewell, citizen.
Happy
Yes, and happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Or whatever they call it in Throne of Glass. What do they call that?
Sam Hewen, right?
Happy Sam
Happy
Hewen.
Sam Hewen.
Happy Sam's Day.